GBNews was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GBNews exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first. GBNews came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GBNews exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Thursday, the 9th of October. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Dawn Neeson.
Now, blessed are the peacemakers. After more than 2 years of horror and devastation, a peace deal has been agreed between Hamas and Israel. Donald Trump promises to develop Gaza to become another Middle Eastern thriving model miracle city. But will the peace hold? And could the president now be in line for a Nobel Peace Prize?
And why are Palestinian marches still going ahead on British streets this weekend, in spite of peace being agreed? It raises the question, if not a Gaza ceasefire and peace plan, what do they really want?
Meanwhile, our Prime Minister continues his investment tour of India alongside business leaders. Keir Starmer is spending the day with Narendra Modi. We'll catch up with the two world leaders later in the programme.
Oh yeah, meanwhile, what a disaster, a water disaster. Yes, British families will have to, that's you and me, will have to cough up to pay an extra £556 million in water bills as 5 firms have their bid to hike charges approved by the regulator.
Elsewhere, anti-Semitic doctors will be banned from treating patients while under investigation. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, plans to change legislation to root out the evil of racism from the NHS. This after an NHS doctor who denied the Holocaust was allowed to keep her job.
Yes, and meanwhile, this comes as new statistics reveal a religious hate crime rises to the highest level ever recorded in Britain. Jewish people have been hit with the highest rate of hate crime of any religious group.
And His Majesty the King will star in a new global Amazon documentary, provisionally titled Finding Harmony, A King's Vision, all focusing on his love of the natural world. Well, happy Thursday.
It is Thursday. We are both convinced it's Friday, by the way.
We woke up this morning thinking...
Not together, by the way.
No.
That would be wrong. Okay.
Separate parts of the country, parts of the city. But I sent out a tweet sort of when I realised it actually wasn't Friday, and it's only Thursday.
Like, happy Friday! And it's like, it's really not Friday, Tom. No, it's not Friday. Happy Thursday to you all. Thank you so much for your company, because it's the favourite part of the show for us, isn't it, Tom?
Certainly is.
Yeah, that and the bananas and possibly the spiders, but it is you and your company. And we've got a huge show for you. I mean, it's absolutely packed with news. We're going to go live to America for any breaking news we can bring you on that peace deal in the Middle East. So don't want to miss a word of that. And also, I think, back here on the streets of London, we have another Peace in Palestine march going ahead this week. And I've got Jewish friends who are going, why? So we're asking the questions. why. And we're asking people who are going on the march and organising the march what they think it's for, what they want to achieve from this, when in theory they have what they were protesting for in the first place.
So, I mean, if there's a peace deal that has been agreed,
yes,
then what is the march actually about?
We don't know, but I have my suspicions, as do many of you. And we've been talking to Warney about this as well. He also has his suspicions. He's been studying extremism in this country, which links into the hate crime, Tom, for many, many years now, and he has a very strong theory on this one. In any case, it's all about you, not us. So gbnews.com/your say. Join in the conversation, especially if you want to talk about spiders.
Yes, we will be talking about a peculiar spider story later in the programme. So I know Dawn in particular is a big fan of spiders.
Love spiders, yeah, because it's a Friday. No, it's not, it's Thursday. In any case, should we get the news headlines with Sam?
Let's do that.
Tom, Dawn, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you. The top story at midday. Donald Trump says that Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal, a potential breakthrough that could see fighting halt within hours. The deal would see all Israeli hostages and close to 2,000 Palestinian prisoners released, humanitarian aid enter Gaza, and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines. The IDF says it's already preparing to adjust deployment lines ahead of tonight's key cabinet meeting in Jerusalem, taking place at 5 o'clock local time. If ministers there sign off, a 72-hour countdown begins for the hostages to be freed, with President Donald Trump predicting all 20 surviving captives could be home by Monday. He spoke to Fox News just hours after the deal was announced.
It's brought the whole world together. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. It's brought peace to the world, I'm telling you.
Here, meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer has called that agreement on the first phase of the peace plan a moment of profound relief felt around the world. The Prime Minister praised the tireless diplomatic efforts of the US, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey in moving towards peace. He says the deal must now be implemented in full and without delay, with restrictions on humanitarian aid to Gaza lifted immediately.
I strongly welcome the news that a deal has been reached on the first stage of the peace plan in Gaza. This is a moment of profound relief that we felt around the world, but particularly for the hostages, their families, and for the civilian population of Gaza.
That comes as Sir Keir Starmer has been given a bold welcome in India, with streets in Mumbai lined with thousands of photos of him and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. On his first official visit to the country, he's leading a record delegation of more than 100 UK business, university and cultural leaders on a 2-day trade mission. He's unveiled new business and film deals, saying the UK-India partnership could boost Britain's economy by nearly £5 billion a year. He's also announced 3 Bollywood films will soon be shot in the UK, ending an 8-year hiatus. Millions of households in England face even higher water bills after 5 major suppliers won an appeal to the UK's competition regulator. Anglian, Northumbrian, Southern, Wessex and South East Water can now raise bills by an extra 3%. That's on top of Ofwat's approved increases. The watchdog says it's to help cover rising borrowing costs, but insists most of the company's requests were largely unjustified. It means customers will shoulder part of the £550 million in extra revenue granted to the firms. Thames Water's separate appeal, meanwhile, has been delayed as it works on a rescue deal. Hate crimes in England and Wales have risen for the first time in 3 years, with sharp increases in racially and religiously motivated offences. The Home Office says anti-Muslim hate crimes jumped nearly 20%, fuelled by unrest after the Southport murders and riots last summer. Religious hate crimes overall hit a record high, up 3%, while race hate offences rose 6% to more than 82,000. Crimes targeting Jewish people dropped by 18% outside of London, but figures exclude data from the Met Police. It means in total, police logged more than 137,000 hate crimes across England and Wales in the last year. Well, breaking news to bring you from the United States. Messaging platform Discord says that age verification photos from around 70,000 users have been leaked after a cyber attack. The platform, home to over 200 million users and popular among gamers, says it involved a third-party firm but insists its own systems weren't breached. It comes amid growing concern here at home over how social media firms handle age checks under the UK's Online Safety Act. It's understood the leaked data may also include partial payment details and messages. The company says it is working with law enforcement to investigate. And Sir Keir Starmer is launching a 4-week blitz to bring the buzz back to Britain's pubs, making it easier for venues to stay open later, host live music and serve food outdoors. The Prime Minister says pubs are the beating heart of the UK community and wants to cut red tape holding the industry back. It follows a government review which found outdated licensing rules were shutting down historic venues. Starmer says that when our locals do well, the economy does well too. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you shortly. Next, though, let's take a look at the markets.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here are the midday markets for you. The pound will buy you $1.3367 and €1.1505 euros. The price of gold, £3,016, 91 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,504 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past midday. Now it's a historic day as a peace deal is agreed between Israel and Hamas to help end the war in Gaza.
Yes, Donald Trump says both sides have signed off on the first phase of the US-led deal, which could see the remaining Israeli hostages freed as soon as this Saturday.
But Benjamin Netanyahu's office say a ceasefire will only come into effect after the deal is ratified by his government later this afternoon.
OK, GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White joins us. And now, Mark, this sounds like really, really good news. Why do I feel a little bit like I'm a bit dubious about some of this?
Because there's a difficult path ahead, undoubtedly, but it certainly does have the feel of something that's a lot more tangible than some of the previous excursions that we had towards some kind of a ceasefire, because previously you had ceasefires for a period of time, a number of hostages released, but then nothing really beyond that in terms of building on that. Now there is a 20-point plan. The first phase, you could argue, is relatively easy, getting the sides to agree on this in the first place, and then have the ceasefire, get those remaining hostages released. But then you go on to the other phases. They are likely to be more difficult, I think, to achieve. But still there's optimism. But it's the kind of thing like, you know, how will this new interim administration work? It's going to involve some of the Arab neighbours there. We know Tony Blair is involved as well. What future part, if any, does Hamas have? They've obviously got to disarm. How will that take place? Israel have got to withdraw to an extent that is acceptable to Hamas and those who are sort of working on this from the Arab side as well. So there's a lot of unknowns at this stage, but they can get the first part of this 20-point plan in place, get the hostages released, and then just take it step by step. There is certainly a lot of hope that it can be achieved, but as I say, it's not going to be easy.
There's a long road ahead, certainly, but this very afternoon could be the first step along that road, the retreat to a line that's pre-agreed. But Donald Trump has been speaking about Gaza and the opportunities of Gaza. I mean, he had a previous role as a property developer. And sort of he looks at land and he thinks, well, this land could be used a lot better. I mean, the beaches are beautiful. The area could become, I think he said in his statement, one of the thriving modern miracle cities in the Middle East. Mark, he hinted at this before. Back in February, Trump posted a peculiar AI video on Instagram. Let's have a look at it.
No more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, #1. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new light.
Trump Gaza shining bright.
Yeah, couple of tiny weeny stumbling blocks to this. Hamas, for one. I mean, this is Mark. I mean, that's amazing, and you know, if everyone could live happily side by side. And this is the bottom line: is do we have with this deal an eventual two-state solution?
Well, potentially. We'll see where it goes. We're definitely getting ahead of ourselves on this. As far as the video is concerned, look, this is just President Trump. That's what he likes to do. Yeah. He likes to poke and prod and get those with the Trump derangement syndrome really perplexed about this. But, you know, take away the tongue-in-cheek element of it. There is, I think, a truth here in terms of what Gaza could have been and might still become. This particular enclave has been given billions and billions of pounds of international development aid over the years. What did Hamas do? They used it instead of developing and enriching that particular enclave. They used it to build hundreds of miles of tunnels and prepare their war machine. If they can get an administration in that does not involve Hamas, that looks to have a more constructive and positive future, there's a lot of goodwill around the world of those who would be willing to invest in Gaza. There's no reason why Gaza couldn't prosper, not in the vulgar way, of course, that it's been suggested by President Trump, but there's absolutely every expectation that it could become a very prosperous enclave going forward once the rebuilding has taken place. If you've got a government of good intention that wants to use the money to develop this place, as you say, Tom, right on the Mediterranean there, it's a beautiful coastline.
But of course, such devastation in the area now, you can sort of see how Donald Trump looks at this and thinks the area has such potential, but obviously such a long road to walk.
Well, in some respects, though, because it's been flattened in so many parts, that allows the redevelopment of it to take place unhindered. You know, you're not sort of moving people out of houses and looking at redeveloping blocks. It's flattened. You can just start from the beginning and just get it built fairly quickly. As I say, it depends on what the administration will be. If it's an administration of good intent that really does want to take in the billions that will undoubtedly be offered by the UN and countries, rich countries in the region, they will give money to the people of Gaza to rebuild.
Look at what countries like the UAE and Qatar and Saudi Arabia have built in the last 10 years alone. And
there is absolutely no reason to believe that Gaza could not do the same if it's governed in a way that is much more positive.
OK, Mark White, thank you very much. And those countries you mentioned, Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, are the countries involved in this deal as well. So it's not just America and, you know... And Tony Blair, which would be worrying, to be honest with you.
Well, we should say that Donald Trump told the families that the hostages would be released on Monday. But some reports say it could come as early as Saturday.
Yeah, OK. So Nivi Fieldman is the UK lead of the Hostages and Missing Families Forum, and she joins us now. Nivi, thank you so much for joining us. Really good to speak to you this morning. What does this news mean to you and the families?
Few days ahead of us. It's the first time that there's real hope and a feeling that all of them might really come out. You know, the live ones within 72 hours. There's a talk of all of them coming out of Gaza within a week. It's the first time that we have a little bit of real hope. And at the same time, we're really scared that something will go wrong. Until they're out, they're still there. We know that we might have very hard time ahead of us. You know, maybe some of the hostages that we're expecting to come alive, maybe they won't come alive. Maybe their medical condition will be really tough. And there's talk in the air that maybe not all hostages, not all the bodies will be able to be found. It's nerve-wracking times for the families, and we're just trying to be there and to tell them we're with you until they're all out.
Been 2 long years, more than 2 years, since these people were snatched from their homes, from their country, and taken to a hell on earth. How much information have you been able to glean over the course of the last 2 years? Confirmation that some of these people are still alive. I mean, when was the last contact that we've had with some of these hostages?
So, firstly, no one but Hamas and the Islamic Jihad had direct contact with the hostages. So most of the information that comes to us are either from released hostages that can confirm that who they've been with and their condition, or propaganda, you know, their terror videos that they're sending, video clips that they are in charge of telling them what to say and how to act. And that's our 2 main sources. Only a few weeks ago, we had a video of Alon Oil come out, of Guy Gilboa Dalal, of Evyatar David. These are the last hostages. Ron Breslevsky, these are the last hostages we've seen. We know that all of the last videos that came out, their condition is really bad. Evyatar David, we can see that he's so thin that expert medics said that he's days from his death. Guy Gilboa Dalal, apparently they filmed similar videos of him that they decided not to release, and then they showed videos of him outside of the Red Crescent, like the Red Cross in Gaza. Ron Breslevsky, we can see that his medical condition is really poor, and saying that he's not even able to get up without aid. So they're in really, really bad condition. And from Evyatar David's video, we know that Hamas done it intentionally. We can see that the Hamas terrorist hand in his video had a lot of food, healthy, chubby hand, where Evyatar David is a skeleton that's been starved on purpose.
It's just, I just can't imagine, no one can imagine what it's been like for the families and the friends and the loved ones of those that have been held. Nivi, when we have seen hostages released in the past, Hamas have made a show of it almost. I mean, it's like, how do you know any details of how this is going to go ahead? Will they just be handed over quietly, or are we going to get that appalling demonstration where they're handed over amid sort of like, you know, celebrations from the Hamas side?
I'm really, really hoping that they will release them in a dignified way, in a private way, back to their own lives. I know from released hostages, the moments of having to go through the crowds, the jeering crowds, was terrifying for them, with them rocking the car, and knowing once they're with the Red Cross that they don't have anyone armed with them. Many of the released hostages saying that the fear of the Gazan population was even greater than their actual captors, because they don't, you know, there's so much hate in there, and they really don't know what can happen. So I really hope they'll shield them. I hope that they'll send them to their loving families, to hospital, to proper medical care, and that they'll respect their privacy at those really hard moments that are coming ahead.
I mean, how terrifying that it's not quite a Stockholm syndrome, but it's similar, that sort of as soon as you're handed away from your captors, the evil people, the armed people who ripped you from your home, that actually you're more frightened because you don't have that presumed protection from a population that could lynch you. I mean, just astonishing. I should say we're looking at live pictures of a place in Tel Aviv that's come to be known as Hostage Square over the course of the last 2 years. Huge celebrations there, as of course, huge hope abounds across Israel and the wider world.
Yeah, Nivi, I mean, you know, please God, this all does go well for you. Can I just ask you, I mean, you talked about hate earlier on. Can I ask you about some of the hate we have witnessed in the UK recently, and in particular that woman who was taking down the hostage yellow ribbons from the railings in North London? What effect does that have on the Jewish community and certainly the families and the friends of the hostages?
You know, the video we're talking about is actually a PhD student in Mill Hill cutting ribbons off a fence of a park, yellow ribbons. The yellow ribbons are put up there to show the families and the hostages that we're waiting for them, that we have hope that they'll come. It gives us hope that, you know, we can really bring up the yearning for their return. It's not about hate, it's just all about love, those yellow ribbons. And you'll see many people with these yellow ribbons. For them to be taken off the ribbons, it's devastating. The community has been going through so much hate. And, you know, for the majority that's silent, the silent majority, I'm calling you, these are hard days for the Jewish community. We feel very isolated in England. You know, in England, the Jewish community is 0.5% of the population, although the hate crimes against the Jewish population are 30%. So 30% of all hate crimes in England are against the Jewish population.
Yeah. The highest amount of hate crime of any religious minority.
Tie a yellow ribbon.
Yeah, Nivi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Nivi.
And just the... I know hope abounds over the coming days.
Yeah.
Nivi Feldman there, the UK lead of the Hostages and Missing Families Forum.
Yeah, indeed. OK. Now, we are moving on. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GBNews, and there is indeed loads more coming up on station. I just wanted to mention there, if you want to talk about this, by the way, please do get those messages coming in. We will read as many out as we possibly can. gbnews.com/your say. And you're already getting in touch about what Nivi's had to say, so I will read them out, but we do have to move on quickly now. We'll be heading to India, where Sir Keir Starmer has been holding talks with his Indian counterpart, Narendra Modi.
But next, the Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch, announced that a Conservative government would abolish stamp duty. Will this help people get on the housing ladder? And what could it do for her own political fortunes? You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
It's our notes, isn't it? So why shouldn't the public have to say on who's on notes? And we've had Shakespeare, of course, and we've had Winston Churchill, but let's have something a bit more up to date.
David Attenborough.
A brilliant idea.
Thank you.
Brilliant idea.
No, I've just come up with that, and I thought that was quite good. And then they also encourage ideas, nature, don't they? So I thought maybe some acorns.
Why not a beaver?
A beaver is a great idea, Claire.
You still cannot pass a Scottish note in anywhere in England, and for fear it will not be accepted as legal tender.
It is legal tender.
Of course
but
it
is legal. Yeah, it is legal tender, same as an Ulster note.
Yeah, and see the minute they start to hold it up in the air, I'm like, I'm going to get you.
It's legal tender.
It's legal tender.
I prefer to use cash in most cases, OK? But we're finding that more and more people are not actually using cash, and then the Bank of Wokery have now said, let's get rid of the historical features on it and let's move on with something more modern.
No,
so I'm glad you like that,
They
Norman.
want to get rid of it because it gives them control, it gives governments control, that they can see everything you're spending, everything you're doing and how you're spending it. And I think it's really creepy.
So do I.
The other thing that's wrong with it, actually, buying by card, is that the people who own the transaction between the retailer and the customer are all American companies.
Yeah.
And they take a rake off of about 1%, 2% for nothing.
Do you remember?
That's all money going out the country.
Right, and by the time it's passed on, if you tap and go, then it's diminished. Whereas if you had the physical £10, it's still £10.
Well, it's interesting that we three would like the feel of notes. And
I like the feel of notes as well.
That's four of us.
I feel rich when I've got cash in my
Younger
pocket.
people in general, I mean, I couldn't give my kids money. You say...
You can give me money anytime.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 28 minutes past midday. Now, the Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch, has vowed to abolish stamp duty on primary residences if elected into government.
I have looked at the rates you have to pay to see if we can lower them. I have decided that we can't, because that simply wouldn't be enough. Conference, the next Conservative government will abolish stamp duty on your home.
Very popular announcement now. The pledge represents the first major policy announcement of Kemi Badenoch's leadership. But will it actually help people get on that housing ladder?
Well, we're joined now by the Executive Director at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Tom Clockerty. Tom, it seems that this is a very strange policy because you have people sort of saying that this is a popular thing, but also economists, who are a difficult bunch to please, saying that it's actually potentially quite a good move.
Yeah, you're right. That is quite an interesting factor of this this tax proposal. Normally, and I bemoan this fact a lot, the taxes that economists think are the most efficient are the ones that the public hates the most. Think of VAT, for example, or council tax or a land value tax or something. In this case, yes, you have something which pretty much every economist agrees. This would be a great thing for Britain's housing market, a great reform of the UK tax system. And also it's something that I think is going to resonate with the general voter as well, who is sick of having to fork out so much money when they want to move house.
The problem, Tom, is it raises £11.6 billion for the Treasury at the moment. So it's going to leave quite a big hole in the coffers, isn't it?
Well, I think, yes, in static terms. I think there are two things to say in response to that. The first one is that this proposal was made in the context of announcing a series of prospective spending cuts over the next Parliament as well. So it's important to bear that in mind. I don't think that the Conservatives are proposing that this should be a deficit finance tax cut necessarily. I think the other thing to say as well, though, is that those headline figures, yes, on paper, that's how much it would cost. But when you think of the wider economic impact of stamp duty, and I think the best studies show that actually, in addition to the cost to the people actually paying the tax, there's about a 75p economic and social loss for every pound of revenue raised. This means stamp duty has bad economic effects, which are multiple times worse than your big taxes like income tax and VAT. Now, if it's a very damaging tax and you get rid of it, you're going to see positive economic impacts. You'll see more house sales, you'll see more house construction, and so some of that lost revenue, maybe not all of it, but a decent chunk will be made back through positive economic effects.
Now, Tom, why is this such a bad tax? In the most simple terms, it obviously makes people move less. Why would it be better if we all moved house more?
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head. The simplest way to put this is when you tax something, you get less of it. So if you tax moving, you get less house moves. Now, obviously, that's bad news for estate agents and conveyancers and so on, but it also has a big, broad economic effect because when transactions which would otherwise happen, when sales which would go through in the absence of stamp duty are discouraged, over time, you get this massive misallocation of housing. So you get, the famous empty nesters who might want to live in a smaller property, but it's it's not worth their while to downsize because of the tax take, they will stay in a larger property that doesn't suit their needs. Similarly, it becomes that much harder for, say, growing families who need more space to find that space in the areas where jobs are, because those homes just aren't coming to the market as frequently as possible. Also important to bear in mind that when you discourage house sales, you also slow down the rate of house building. Developers are very sensitive to the speed at which properties are moving off the market, at which they're being sold. So if sales are depressed, then so is house building going to be. And again, you get less housing available, and it's much harder for everybody. This would matter less if we had a functional property system where you had abundant housing in the areas where people wanted to live and work. But I think we both know that is very much not the case in Britain. When you have a very scarce resource, and that's what housing is for Britons, you need to make sure it is allocated as efficiently as possible. Apologies for the economic speak, but that basically means stamp duty is just a terrible idea.
It's not the first time the Conservatives have played with the idea of reforming it, though, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. And George Osborne, funnily enough, when he was Chancellor, he did two things for stamp duty, one of which was very good, and that was to move to a sort of progressive marginal tax rate system, whereas before you had a slab system, where as soon as you went over a certain level, you would pay a higher tax rate on the whole property value. That was extremely distortionary. He got rid of that. Good. But the way he funded it was by introducing these extremely high rates on the most expensive properties. And this is really, it goes hand in hand with a lot of what the Conservatives did in government. They did some good tax reforms over here, but on the other side, they did some things which were quite destructive and that were normally targeted at wealthier people. Now, that might look good on a distribution analysis, it might be good politics, but it's really bad economics. And we've seen housing transactions, particularly at the top end of the market, hugely discouraged by the high rates of stamp duty that we have. And the problem there is that that has cost the government a lot of revenue. The other thing, by the way, just quickly, that the Conservatives did repeatedly was introduce temporary cuts to stamp duty or temporary increases to the stamp duty threshold. Now, that can be welcome in a sense, but really that's a way of manipulating the market. It's a way of getting people to bring forward their property transactions, basically to crowd as many house sales as possible into a narrow period of time, and so juice the market to get some kind of short-term economic boost. But in the long run, that does nothing for you at all. I'm glad that Kemi Badenoch has suggested this be a permanent move. It's a shame they didn't get round to doing it in the 14 years they were in government, of course. But I frankly think if Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves had any sense, they would steal the opposition's thunder and find a way to do this themselves.
Although, of course, the Labour Party doesn't look like it's proposing any spending reductions at all.
No.
So it's quite hard to reduce the amount of tax that you take from people if at the same time you're trying to expand the amount of money you're spending. But Tom Clougherty of the Institute of Economic Affairs, thanks indeed for explaining that one for us. Absolutely fascinating policy there.
It is. It's putting more pressure on Rachel Reeves coming up with her budget in, the end of November, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not long to go. There's a lot more pressure on there as well. And the cynic in me does wonder, they're getting rid of stamp duty, which is hated and it does stop you moving, certainly if you're a certain age and you want to downsize, which includes myself in that category. However, the cynic in me thinks, are they going to replace it with some other kind of property tax?
Well, they did say that they were saving £47 billion.
I know, but, you know, there's a black hole, evidently.
Yeah.
Who knew? Any case, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show.
Yes, British households are going to pay an extra £556 million between them, not each, in water bills as regulator Ofwat approved bids by 5 firms to hike costs.
Oh dear, that and much more to come after the news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you at 12:36. The top story this hour. Donald Trump says Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal, a potential breakthrough that could see fighting halt within hours. The deal would see all Israeli hostages and some Palestinian prisoners released, humanitarian aid enter Gaza, and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines. Donald Trump spoke to Fox News just hours after the deal was announced.
It's brought the whole world together. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. It's brought peace to the world, I'm telling you.
Here, Sir Keir Starmer has hailed that agreement as a moment of profound relief that he says will be felt around the world. If approved by Israel's cabinet later this afternoon, a ceasefire could begin within hours. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer is in India meeting Prime Minister Modi on what's been called a historic trade mission. He's unveiling new business and film deals, saying the UK-India partnership could boost Britain's economy by nearly £5 billion a year. Hate crimes across England and Wales have risen for the first time in 3 years, up 2% to nearly 116,000. Race and religious hate crimes hit record highs, driven by a near 20% spike in anti-Muslim offences. And Sir Keir Starmer is eyeing longer pub opening hours in a bid to revive Britain's struggling hospitality sector. He's launched a 4-week blitz consultation to cut red tape, making it easier for pubs to stay open later, play live music and serve food outside. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with you for the 1 o'clock news.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure is now moving in from the west. That means it's going to be fine for many of us today with some sunshine out there, although a lot of cloud at the same time, particularly towards the northwest of the country where we're on the periphery of the high pressure, and a strong breeze will continue into the north and northwest of Scotland, along with thicker cloud and some patches of rain here and there, some spots of rain for Northern Ireland into northwest England as well. But away from those areas, actually it's dry, it's settled, and the best of the sunshine through the rest of the day will be across South Wales, southern England and parts of northeast England and eastern Scotland. Feeling pleasant where the sun shines with temperatures above average for the time of year. Now, overnight, we keep the cloudy zones through central and northwestern parts of the country. Where we do get clear spells towards the far south, temperatures will fall away after dark, but in the northwest, a lot of cloud and still some drizzly rain for Northern Ireland, northwest England, western Scotland, especially for western hills of Scotland, but some decent cloud breaks there for eastern Scotland, northeast England, as well as the cloud breaks up over higher ground to the west. And as we go through the nights, some cloud will filter south, but southwest England likely to stay mostly clear, and it's here that temperatures will fall the furthest, with a few mist and fog patches forming by dawn, with light winds expected here as well, temperatures into the single figures. Eastern Scotland as well, some bright weather first thing, but a lot of cloud elsewhere across the country. Some light showers into the Midlands, northwest England, and that will stick around into the afternoon. But actually it progressively gets brighter in many places. Certainly a brighter day for the Midlands by the end of the afternoon. Wales, northern England and eastern Scotland. Temperatures reaching 18 or 19 Celsius.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Drivers on the M48 should note a 7.5-tonne weight restriction from May 27th. In Leicestershire, a collision on the A42 northbound has closed one lane. The M25 anti-clockwise in Hertfordshire has 30-minute delays with a lane closed between junctions 25 and 24. The M4 westbound in West Berkshire features a lane closure due to a collision. Use caution on the A9 1004th Road Bridge due to high winds. And on the trains, expect disruption between Brockenhurst and Southampton Central and Brighton and Haywards Heath. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 20 to 1 and some more good news for you. Not. Households in England will pay an extra £556 million in water bills after 5 suppliers won their appeal to raise bills.
Yeah, it's going to go to build all those new reservoirs. Oh, no, possibly not. The soon-to-be abolished Ofwat, who have been pretty useless, already approved a 36% increase, though it rejected most of the firm's demands as largely unjustified.
OK, we're now joined by the consumer journalist Harry Wallop. Harry, are we going to be walloped?
God.
Well, the customers of 5 water companies, so that's Anglian, Northumberland, South Eastern, and a couple of others are going to be. I mean, it's not a huge amount. It is actually on average only an extra £12 on your annual bills. But the point is that this comes after, so it's 3% extra, but on top of 24% extra that they'd already been granted earlier on this year. And the water companies have complained that's not enough. So they appealed to the Competition and Markets Authority, and the Competition and Markets Authority have given them a little bit of what they wanted. It adds up to, you know, 550 million extra pounds onto our bill. So yeah, it will be a very galling moment for all sorts of customers who are coping with, you know, really quite high inflation at the moment, and were already expecting their water bills to go up. They're going to go up by even more now.
Harry, does it come with terms and conditions, she says, asking a question that she knows the answer of, that they build more reservoirs, that they stop the leaks, that they repair the sewage system, or are they just going to get the money regardless?
Well, this money has to go to infrastructure, mostly. I mean, that's why the CMA has allowed them to put up their bills by even more. But there is a key thing here. One of the reasons the bills are going up by extra amount is because of their interest payments. The authorities have said, yeah, we do acknowledge the fact that these water companies are complaining because they've taken on so much debt and loans, and the interest payments on them have gone up, so they have to be allowed to charge a bit extra. So we, the consumer, are essentially paying for the faults and the errors of these water companies from many years ago when they took on too much debt.
Yeah, and they took on debt and carried on paying the executives and the directors loads of bonuses. That didn't make sense to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, we should acknowledge the fact that there has been a bit of a crackdown in recent years. I mean, you know, no water companies, to my knowledge, paid any dividends last year, and dividends have slowed down considerably to shareholders. And indeed, this government, the Labour government, did implement a thing whereby you can stop bonuses being paid out to water companies, to the bosses of water companies, if those companies fail certain targets. And there were at least 3 bosses who were banned from having any bonuses in the current financial year. So, you know, this is like turning around a tanker, unfortunately. You know, the failed water industry is slowly improving, but it's going to take us years, I mean, many years, before we really see proper improvements and we feel we're getting value for money.
Harry, is the really difficult and unpopular reality here that perhaps if we want absolutely sparkling clean rivers and waterways and every single outlet into them to be monitored as they now are, if we want all of this glimmering infrastructure, we haven't been paying enough for our water. And there's a balance here in terms of how much poo we have in our rivers and how much we pay for our water. We've lent towards the cheaper water, more poo element for the last couple of decades, and now we're leaning towards the less poo, more expensive water option.
OK, I think we should acknowledge, we should stop saying poo quite so regularly on daytime TV.
Thank you, Harry. Welcome to my world.
And the second thing, I think we should acknowledge the fact that, we did get a good deal. You know, after water was privatised, none of us complained that actually our bills didn't increase, and we do enjoy, some of the cleanest tap water in the whole of Europe. Our rivers have had a couple of terrible years. There is no doubt about that. And that is because, yes, we were not paying enough, essentially, on our bills over many years. And there was a period when shareholders were getting disgracefully large amounts of money for very little risk. But now, of course, the risk has massively increased. If you want people to invest heavily in infrastructure, in hideously expensive infrastructure like the super sewage, which has been unveiled on budget and on time by, partly by Thames Water. We have to pay money. You have to ask shareholders to invest a lot of capital, and they have to get a return. Otherwise, they just won't invest that money. So essentially, it's either the bill payers who are going to pay a lot more money, it's going to be the taxpayers, if we nationalise, who will pay a lot more money, or it's going to be investors who are taking the huge risk on the infrastructure who have to see some return. None of these are palatable options. But we have to work out the balance between those 3.
Harry, thank you very much for cheering us all up. Thank you. And I would like to apologise for my colleague's language. Thank you very much, Harry.
I could have used much worse language, Dawn.
I know you could. And we have the...
I sanitised the language, ironically.
You did, actually, very well. More than the water sanitised.
There you go.
But we do have a thing here on this show, don't we, Tom, called Numeracy Corner.
We do.
And you could have explained that story in Numeracy... It would have been Poo Corner. Poo Corner.
Poo-meracy.
Oh, that's a Pooh Corner, as in Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see?
OK. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We are above the age of 12, although often we don't behave like it. And there's lots more coming up on today's programme.
Indeed, your favourite story of the day. Victoria Beckham has released a tell-all documentary on Netflix in which she discusses everything from her music career to her business struggles.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sunshine, it's getting a bit chilly, so perhaps you are. Here's the forecast in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Some unsettled weather across eastern areas of Spain. Storm Alice is set to bring heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira and also Tenerife, but all eyes on eastern areas of Spain. Some intense thunderstorms here likely to bring some localised flooding. A few showers across parts of Sardinia on Friday, but elsewhere, once again, mostly dry and settled. Plenty of sunshine, and this theme will continue over into the weekend with warm temperatures too, widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
OK, we are giggling because we were reading a comment on gbnews.com/you'll say.
Yes, please do get in touch. And this comment was about me being anti-Tory, and I was just responding. Your language is slightly stronger than I can read out, but I was just responding. I'm not anti-Tory, I'm just anti-politician at the moment because I'm very cynical about all of them. But it all seamlessly linked back to your
our previous
story
conversation
about water.
Yes, and because a word that was used was a synonym for the word that I kept saying in the previous.
Yes. Which we're not going to say anymore.
No, and just before we came back live on television, I just said the word effluviant, and I think we both had a little giggle. But moving on, because in much more serious news, there's a new 3-part Netflix series in which Victoria Beckham is set to tell all on her pop career, family life, and struggles to reinvent herself as a fashion entrepreneur.
The documentary is also set to explore Victoria's struggles with an eating disorder after the star experienced intense media scrutiny about her weight.
Well, joining us now is GB News entertainment editor Alex Davies. Alex, tell us about this.
Yes, speaking of effluviant. No, this was... that's not fair on Victoria. It's not fair on Victoria. From what I've seen, it's a very good documentary series, I must say. Yes, this is Victoria opening up like she's never done before. The biggest talking point from the series is this eating disorder revelation that she's come forward with. There's a really harrowing clip in it when she was part of the Spice Girls and she went on Channel 4 on a Chris Evans breakfast show and he made her weigh herself on live TV, and she opens up about just the impact that had on her. She opens up on the impact that her body image had when she was growing up as a child in school. She was a very anxious child growing up, which you may not have expected from somebody who went on to be a Spice Girl. It's a really candid account. She hasn't done anything like this before. She only referenced her eating disorder once in her memoir back in 2001, but this is the first time she's really gone into depth about it. And the first time she's really spoken about her fashion brand as well. It was millions and millions and millions in debt, but she was so determined. I mean, it helped that she had the ability to bankroll it for all them years, but she was so in debt, but she was determined to get rid of this image of pop star wannabe fashion designer. She's now a fashion designer in her own right. It's really that sort of journey.
And is this being well received? It's running on Netflix now, isn't it? I mean, people seem to be talking about it.
It's been really well received. I don't know if you watched David's one a few years ago. David did his own one, and I actually really rated that as well. I thought that got the balance of his life as a footballer and as a dad or a personality very well, and this one seems to have done the same with critics and fans alike. It doesn't reference what a lot of fans would like them to, which is the feud between her and son Brooklyn. It very much keeps that well under rugs, well under wraps.
So perhaps not all as tell-all as it might have been, but Alex Davies, thanks indeed for telling us all about it.
Yes. Thank you very much. OK, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Loads more coming up on today's show. Don't you dare move a muscle.
Yes, more reaction to this landmark Gaza peace accord. What's in it? That next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure is now moving in from the west. That means it's going to be fine for many of us today with some sunshine out there, although a lot of cloud at the same time, particularly towards the northwest of the country where we're on the periphery of the high pressure, and a strong breeze will continue into the north and northwest of Scotland, along with thicker cloud and some patches of rain here and there, some spots of rain for Northern Ireland into northwest England as well. But away from those areas, actually it's dry, it's settled, and the best of the sunshine through the rest of the day will be across South Wales, southern England and parts of northeast England and eastern Scotland. Feeling pleasant where the sun shines with temperatures above average for the time of year. Now, overnight, we keep the cloudy zones through central and northwestern parts of the country. Where we do get clear spells towards the far south, temperatures will fall away after dark, but in the northwest, a lot of cloud and still some drizzly rain for Northern Ireland, northwest England, western Scotland, especially for western hills of Scotland, but some decent cloud breaks there for eastern Scotland, northeast England, as well as the cloud breaks up over higher ground to the west. And as we go through the nights, some cloud will filter south, but southwest England likely to stay mostly clear, and it's here that temperatures will fall the furthest, with a few mist and fog patches forming by dawn, with light winds expected here as well, temperatures into the single figures. Eastern Scotland as well, some bright weather first thing, but a lot of cloud elsewhere across the country. Some light showers into the Midlands, northwest England, and that will stick around into the afternoon. But actually it progressively gets brighter in many places. Certainly a brighter day for the Midlands by the end of the afternoon. Wales, northern England and eastern Scotland. Temperatures reaching 18 or 19 Celsius.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Are you panicking when you're in Northern Ireland when you go out and about because there is a lack of chargers?
Well, listen, I'm really pro-EV, and we've had the odd issue with broken EV chargers, particularly yesterday at both Ballymoney at Beasties and also over at Dunsilley. We had issues with chargers, but the charging infrastructure is used very rarely. My mother, for example, she has overnight charging at home. She's never used a public charger, and she's had the car for 3 years.
Yeah.
So if you've got that domestic overnight charging, it's cheap. It's very affordable if you buy a 2-year-old EV, and they are absolutely the way forward. I'm a Yorkshireman. I don't like parting with my brass. I want to get cheap motoring, and for less than a penny a mile and a car for less than 20 grand to start with, you know, it sounds a bit blasé saying £20,000, but relative to what these cars are new, they're incredible value for money, and we're seeing mass adoption. There's a garage in Richmond in North Yorkshire that sells more than half of the cars they sell are electric vehicles, and that's in a rural Dales area. So it's about having that domestic overnight charging and not having to rely on public infrastructure.
Danny, where it doesn't convince me at all is, right, so I'm living in London and I want to go to see Manchester United, and I might get there, but am I going to get back down again? Or worse still, if I'm not on full charge, I'm going to miss kickoff because I'm going to have to rely on a public charger somewhere. So is that the sort of anxiety? I mean, you were talking about range anxiety there, Ellie. Is that the sort of anxiety people have? I mean, I genuinely have that. Despite what we were hearing there from Fraser.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 1 o'clock on Thursday, the 9th of October. Here's Tom Harwood and I'm Dawn Neeson.
Now, blessed are the peacemakers. Those are the words of Donald Trump. After more than 2 years of horror and devastation, a peace deal has been agreed between Hamas and Israel. The US president promises to develop Gaza to become another Middle Eastern thriving modern miracle city. But will the peace hold? And could the president now be in line for the Nobel Peace Prize?
And we're asking why are Palestinian marches still going ahead on British streets this weekend, in spite of peace being agreed? It raises the question, if it's not a Gaza ceasefire and peace plan they were after, what do they really want?
Meanwhile, our Prime Minister continues his investment tour of India alongside business leaders. Yes, Keir Starmer is spending the day with Narendra Modi. We'll catch up with the two world leaders later in the programme.
Yes, and anti-Semitic doctors will be banned from treating patients while under investigation. Health Secretary Wes Streeting plans to change legislation to root out the evil of racism from the NHS. This is after an NHS doctor who denied the Holocaust was allowed to keep her job.
It all comes as new statistics reveal hate crimes rise to the largest level ever recorded. That's religious hate crimes. Jewish people have been hit with the highest rate of hate crime of any religious group.
Who'd have thought? And His Majesty the King will star in a new global Amazon documentary provisionally titled Finding Harmony, A King's Vision, focusing on his love of the natural world. Hello, welcome back. I'm sorry, we were just discussing the Finding Harmony there, the King's Vision.
Yeah, you said it sounded a bit like...
Finding Nemo. Does it not? Does it not remind anyone else? Is that just me?
I mean, it's got the word finding in it.
Yeah, well, I know, but I'm sorry. I've already been told off once for apologising on Tom's behalf. That was called humour. I'm apologising if it didn't make you laugh, but it was having a go, hey. And for shouting at you.
We are, of course, referring to the GB News inbox, gbnews.com/yoursay, where it's been lively today, isn't it?
Very lively. Yeah. And we will read as many comments out as we possibly can, including those ones about us, so do keep them coming in. gbnews.com/yoursay. And I promise not to shout over Tom anymore. Well, for a few minutes in any case. Well, because we're getting the headlines with San Francisco.
Tom, Dawn, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you. The top story this lunchtime. Donald Trump says Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal in what would be a potential breakthrough that could see fighting halt within hours. That deal would see all Israeli hostages and close to 2,000 Palestinian prisoners released. Humanitarian aid enter Gaza and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines. The IDF says it's already preparing to adjust deployment lines ahead of tonight's key cabinet meeting in Jerusalem, set to take place at around 5 p.m. local time. If ministers there sign off, a 72-hour countdown begins for the hostages to be freed, with President Trump predicting all 20 surviving captives could be home by Monday. Here's what he had to say to Fox News just hours after that deal was announced.
It's brought the whole world together. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. It's brought peace to the world, I'm telling you.
Here, meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer has called that agreement on the first phase of Trump's peace plan as a moment of profound relief that he says will be felt around the world. The Prime Minister's praised the tireless diplomatic efforts of the US, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey. He says the deal must be implemented now in full and without delay, with restrictions on humanitarian aid to Gaza lifted immediately.
I strongly welcome the news that a deal has been reached on the first stage of the peace plan in Gaza. This is a moment of profound relief that will be felt around the world, but particularly for the hostages, their families, and for the civilian population of Gaza.
Well, that comes as Sir Keir Starmer has been given a bold welcome in India, with streets in Mumbai lined with thousands of photos of him and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. On his first official visit to the country, he's leading a record delegation of more than 100 UK business, university and cultural leaders on that two-day trade mission. He's unveiled new business and film deals, saying the UK-India partnership could boost Britain's economy by nearly £5 billion a year. Sir Keir has also announced 3 Bollywood films will soon be shot in the UK, ending an 8-year hiatus. Millions of households in England now face even higher water bills after 5 major suppliers won an appeal to the UK's competition regulator. Anglian, Northumbrian, Southern, Wessex and South East Water can now raise bills by an extra 3%. That's on top of Ofwat's approved increases. The watchdog says it's to help cover rising borrowing costs, but insists most of the company's requests were largely unjustified.
Hate crime in England and Wales has risen for the first time in 3 years, with sharp increases in racially and religiously motivated offences. The Home Office says anti-Muslim hate crimes jumped nearly 20%, fuelled by the unrest after Southport murders and riots last summer. Religious hate crimes overall hit a record high, up 3%, while race hate offences rose 6% to more than 82,000. Crimes targeting Jewish people dropped by 18% outside London, but the figures exclude data from the Metropolitan Police. It means in total, police across the country logged more than 137,000 hate crimes in the past year. All victims of the Post Office Horizon scandal are now set to get free legal advice for the first time as part of major changes to the government's compensation schemes. It's following a damning public inquiry that called the scandal one of the worst miscarriages of justice in UK history. More than 900 sub-postmasters were wrongly prosecuted after the faulty Horizon IT system made it appear that money was missing from their accounts. The Business Secretary says there is more to do to bring justice to those affected. So far, over £1.2 billion has been paid out to more than 9,000 claimants. Messaging platform Discord says that age verification photos from around 70,000 of its users have been leaked after a cyber attack. The platform, home to 200 million users, says it involved a third-party firm but insists its own systems weren't breached. It comes amid growing concern over how social media firms handle age checks under the UK's Online Safety Act. It's understood leaked data may also include partial payment details and messages. The company says it's working with law enforcement to investigate. And Sir Keir Starmer is launching a 4-week so-called blitz to bring the buzz back to Britain's pubs, making it easier for venues to stay open later, host live music and serve food outdoors. The Prime Minister says pubs are the beating heart of UK communities and wants to cut red tape holding the industry back. It follows a government review which found outdated licensing rules were shutting down historic venues. Sir Keir Starmer says that when our locals do well, the economy does well too. Those are the lunchtime headlines. I'll be back with you shortly. Next, let's take a look at the markets.
My Claim Group sponsors the GBNews Finance Report.
And here are those lunchtime markets for you. The pound will buy you $1.3367 and €1.1505. The price of gold is £3,016.91 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,504 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GBNews Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 8 minutes past 1, and it's a historic day as a peace deal is agreed between Israel and Hamas to help end that war in Gaza.
Yes, Donald Trump says both sides have signed off on the first phase of the US-led deal, which could see the remaining Israeli hostages freed as soon as this Saturday.
But Benjamin Netanyahu's office say a ceasefire will only come into effect after the deal is ratified by his government later this afternoon.
OK, GB News home and security editor Mark White joins in the studio. Mark, America is waking up now. Do we have any more information on the deal? Anything moving forward?
Well, only that we're expecting the Israeli cabinet to ratify it this afternoon, around about 3 o'clock, we're told. And then at that point, the ceasefire will begin immediately. The Israeli troops will have about 24 hours to withdraw to pre-arranged lines that are acceptable to Hamas. And then at that point, there's a 72-hour clock that begins for Hamas to turn over the remaining hostages. 48 of those, sadly, 28 are dead. 20 are still alive, though. Handing over those that are still alive is probably going to be easier for Hamas to do than some of the dead because, quite frankly, some of them are buried under tons of rubble deep in tunnel systems and alike.
Mark, we're looking at live pictures of Hostages Square in Tel Aviv, an area that's become to be known Hostages Square over the course of the last 2 years, of course. You're telling us here that less than 2 hours now until we could really genuinely see an end to a war that has defined global politics in many ways for the last 2 years of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in Hostage Square a couple of times when I was in Tel Aviv after the attacks on October the 7th, and you cannot help but be deeply moved in that square. Often family members out there, pictures of those who have been taken hostage, more than 250 initially. They've been returned in phases, but still that outstanding number of 48. And there is a real sense of optimism now. How can there not be? 2 years of this, with this relentless war now that's been raging in Gaza, and only just short periods of optimism when we've had other release programmes. But of course, those release programmes have happened without anything more sustainable in terms of a peace plan. So it's hoped, as complicated and difficult as it no doubt will be over the coming weeks and months with this 20-point plan, at least there's something in place that people can get round and hope will achieve something more meaningful and lasting.
Mark, this is a quid pro quo, isn't it, though? Israel does have to release some of the Gaza Palestinian prisoners, some of whom are some of the worst terrorists that have been in prison in Israel for a long time now.
We see that every time there's a hostage release deal. This will be no different. There will be 48 hostages, dead and alive, released. In return, 2,000 prisoners, some Palestinians, 1,700 will be Gazans. Some of those convicted of murder. Absolutely not the kind of people that the Israelis want to see back on the street, people who've perpetrated horrific crimes against the Israeli people. But you know, it's part of the peace process if you want to move forward.
That's the difficult thing when you're dealing with a terrorist organisation, in effect negotiating with that. That has to happen. Now, we're looking at our screens here live in Tel Aviv, an American flag being raised. I've seen this big yellow placard in the centre. It's been swivelling around a bit. It has the words Trump across it with a big red heart. Because, of course, Donald Trump is expected to travel to the Middle East over this weekend as this deal is implemented. Stay with us, Mark, but let's bring in the US journalist Chapman Bell on this. This is a significant moment in Donald Trump's presidency.
Yeah, it's no doubt good news. Egypt's president said the world is witnessing a historic moment, and there's been congratulations from all over. And, you know, Trump has put this as a big thing he wanted to try to solve, a big global issue. Now, there is cautious optimism. This is great news, a ceasefire, the release of the remaining hostages in exchange for the prisoners. Now, one thing that does give hope is now that all the hostages have been released, that is no longer an issue on the table. But going forward, there are other issues. Who governs Gaza after this? Will Hamas disarm? There are sticking points that may be more challenging to negotiate, but people from around the world leaders, people in Gaza, people in Tel Aviv, all cheering at this good news.
And how is it going down in America with those who are suffering, let's not beat about the bush here, with the Trump derangement syndrome? I mean, are they celebrating this, or are they sort of like saying, well, there is a but to come?
Well, I mean, I think good news is good news, and you can't politicize something that is, in fact, good news. You know, there will be skeptics who said we've seen ceasefires before fall apart. We've seen this following hostage, releases and negotiations. And, yeah, I mean, I've covered the conflict in this region for many, many years, and it started many, many years before I was even born. So it is a big issue to tackle. But whenever there is a good step forward and you're getting lauded from around the world, it is something to celebrate, I think, as a president.
Now, of course, this is a 20-point plan that was announced a couple of weeks ago now, that does seem to be moving forward. One of the points of this plan is the redevelopment of Gaza. Speaking about Gaza in many ways as a real estate opportunity. Perhaps the president has a particular interest here. Interestingly, some months ago, the US President Donald Trump posted a video highlighting this real estate opportunity on his personal Instagram feed. Let's take a look.
No more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, #1. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life.
So, an AI video there showing golden statues of Donald Trump, gleaming skyscrapers, Abu Dhabi or Dubai-style development. Is that going to happen?
I mean, people can dream, but I think in reality that's not going to happen overnight. Who knows? But you know what? I will say Trump does like to rile people up a bit and court a bit of controversy, and sure enough, that will, because I don't know if that's going to be a sticking point in a peace negotiation.
I mean, as you say, Trump does like to rile people up. I mean, this was done as a deal. It was announced on Truth Social. He issued that amazing picture. The peace. Shall I hold it up though? That was how it was announced, with the peace president there striding down the corridors of the White House. So you know, he doesn't do anything subtly, does he? So that was, we think, a bit of tongue-in-cheek, but obviously...
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a real estate mogul. He's, you know, had casinos and hotels, and of course, you know, it's in his DNA probably to dream of big developments.
But on a serious side, I mean, we are having a bit of a laugh with that video, but on a serious side, lots of people on both sides have lost their lives here. So, you know, the good thing is we do have peace now. It's how long we can make it last when you've got two sides, with Netanyahu still in charge, who have vowed to wipe one another out. This is the... we've got the 20-point plan, but the main sticking point is Hamas have said they would do October 7 every single day if they could.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's important to remember the people caught in the middle who are not Hamas, but live in Gaza, whose lives have been destroyed. The people in Israel who live with the threat of being kidnapped or rockets, you know, landing on them. You know, there are a lot of people caught in the middle, women and children as well, and a lot of people suffering from this, and they're going to continue to suffer. It's not something that is fixed overnight, but I think...
Although a huge concern of the Israelis is the radicalisation that has occurred amongst the population in Gaza. The schools have been teaching horrific things about Jews. Hamas has run the place for the last 20-odd years. Mark, just to bring in Mark White back to this conversation, the idea that Gaza could be any form of democracy in the course of the next decade, surely that wouldn't be able to work.
Not in the course of the next decade, but the hope is that it can be put on a trajectory that is just a bit more constructive than what we've had at the moment. There was a lot of goodwill towards Gaza, billions of pounds pumped in by the UN and countries around the world. Hamas used that to build these hundreds of miles of terror tunnels to prepare for the war that they wanted to wage against Israel. And you're right, they taught from a very young age their children, and still do, to absolutely hate everything Jewish and Israeli, to wipe the Israelis off the face of the earth. So moving from that mindset to something that is a bit more constructive is not going to be easy. But if you're involving other nations, Arab nations around the region, coming on board now enthusiastically with Trump's plan to do that, then it does give some hope that actually all this goodwill internationally could be spent in a more constructive way. And although Trump's idea, of course, is a vulgar caricature of what it might be, but there's no reason to think that decades down the line that it can't be a prosperous enclave in the same way that we see Qatar and countries in the UAE.
No, that is a fascinating point, because ultimately, I mean, while Donald Trump was gleefully posting this sort of AI jokey imagery, I mean, Chapman, Gaza could be a beautiful part of the world. It's on the Mediterranean Sea. The beaches are gorgeous. I mean, there's so much there that I suppose someone like Donald Trump looks at and sees sort of, you know, with different governance, this could be such a different place. But I suppose that is the sticking point. How do you deliver that different governance?
Well, I think it's a lot of work, and I think all of the peace process in the Middle East has been baby steps. Do big wins, but then steps backwards. And I think it's going to take a global effort to try to create a Gaza that works for the people who live there, for a relationship with Israel. And I think it's like anything in politics and geopolitical negotiations. There has to be some sort of negotiation to make things work, and people have to make amends. But, you know, it takes generations sometimes. So I think it's going to, you know, things could be moving in the right direction, but how long do they move in the right direction?
What is it about Donald Trump that's enabled this compared to your previous presidents?
Well, you know, he has made it a focus. He has built a strong relationship with Qatar, with Saudi Arabia, with, you know, a big push with a relationship with the Middle East. There's also always the right place at the right time. You know, there's so many different factors in play. I couldn't say if it is one thing specific to Trump that makes it work. You know, while he has made efforts, there also, you know, has been issues to make those efforts work.
Yeah, and I wonder if we can get back up those live pictures of Gaza as things stand just on our screens to round off this conversation, because whilst it's optimistic to look forward, to look at the peace, to look at the development that could go on. I mean, this is the state of the place. Live pictures there. You can see just in the corner the sea washing up on what could be a beautiful beach. But my goodness me, the devastation across the landscape is just so severe.
Yeah, and just, you know, within the last couple of years, that was people's homes. You know, maybe it wasn't the idea of a, you know, resort area, but it was people's homes, and now it's, you know, raised. So it's going to take a long time to rebuild.
Yeah. Purely on a construction point of view, though, if you just to step back and take yourself away from the emotive, which is, of course, very difficult to do, the emotive scene of devastation, sometimes from a constructor's point of view, it's much easier to get in there when the ground has been levelled. Right. You're not redeveloping already pre-existing buildings, but you're just starting anew. You can start more quickly.
And the Arabs do build these things very, very quickly.
Of course they do.
I mean, the scale of change that we've seen in the UAE, for example, I mean, yeah, so much. I mean, it's just fascinating to look at these live pictures there in the centre of Gaza.
And smoke still rising, which just indicates, Tom, that we don't have the ceasefire yet. The Israelis have been very clear to the people of Gaza, do not go back into the areas where we have told you to evacuate from, because until we have that ceasefire, it remains a war zone.
And that is expected to be signed this afternoon?
About 3 o'clock our time, Cabinet in Israel is meeting, and soon after we're expecting it to be ratified.
Wow, it could be that the next 2 hours are the last moments that the bombs rain down.
You may be looking at the last, we can only hope and pray, the last bombs raining down in Gaza now.
Wow.
You know, we've been here before, but in different circumstances. But it is, as many people are saying, it's a time for, you know, cautious optimism and hope.
Wow. Well, Chapman Bell and indeed Mark White, thanks indeed for talking us through that. Just extraordinary pictures there as smoke raises over Gaza. Perhaps for the last time in this war.
Well, we can only hope and pray, can't we? And we will bring you any breaking news of developments in that situation as and when we have it. OK, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has vowed to ban anti-Semitic doctors from treating patients. But first...
Sir Keir Starmer wants to expand the use of digital IDs to cover Britain's everyday lives. Who could have thought this was coming, eh? Can he still claim this policy is purely about immigration?
Well, all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 1:30, and it's not even been implemented yet, but Sir Keir Starmer is already looking into expanding the use of his proposed digital ID.
Shocked, never saw it coming. When the scheme was announced last month, it was made clear that you would only need digital ID to work in the UK, and it was on a voluntary basis. However, but now Sir Keir Starmer is floating the idea that the IDs could be used for accessing public services such as benefits. On a voluntary basis, obviously.
But should we be worried about mission creep here in the digital ID, as some people call it? The Brit card. Well, delighted to be joined by the Executive Director of Politics at the Tony Blair Institute, Ryan Wayne. Ryan, of course, the TBI has been proposing some sort of digital ID for some time. The government seemed to say this will solve illegal immigration. But now there's so much more that this is supposed to be about.
Well, Tom Dunn, thanks for having me on. And first of all, I think it's really important that we're discussing this. We're in a democracy. We should be debating what we want this to be. We've always said that digital ID at its best will make life much more difficult for people who shouldn't be here and much easier for people who should. So I'm really pleased to hear that the Prime Minister, on his visit to India, where he's got a lot to learn about their digital ID system, a lot to learn, but not to copy. I'm really glad that he's talking about how we can use it to, frankly, give Britain the upgrade that it needs. I mean, you speak to anyone in this country and you ask them about their interaction with public services, and it's dire, it's grim. You probably have the same yourselves. If we can do something to fix that and improve it and make life better, then we should absolutely be looking at it.
I mean, we already have plenty of forms. I could pick up my wallet now and go through all the forms of ID I have in now. So why do I need a digital ID?
Well, I think
how is it going to make life easier for me?
Well, it's not only about making life easier, it's also about making life safer. Because if you gave me your wallet now, which I wouldn't suggest, and I looked at your driver's licence, for example, that would give me far too much information about you than I need. It would tell me where you live and your date of birth. What I am after when it comes to digital ID, for example, if it's to prove who you are, is just to know that you are the person who you say you are. And a digital ID allows you to do that, or I need to know that you're, I don't know, over 18 to open a bank account, then digital ID can let you do that. But I think the Prime Minister's been very clear as well that this is not about making it mandatory and making it in those services inaccessible.
At the moment?
Well, it's about making it, actually, I think, as compelling a proposition as possible, so that someone like you thinks, do you know what, I'm sick of sending a photocopy of my bank statement or utility bill just to prove who I am, and this is going to make life much easier. I'm going to use it.
It is interesting to see the sort of initial way that this was announced, in very much a sort of stop the boats mantra, right? But now, I mean, I can actually understand the argument about setting up a bank account, no longer having to take utility bills towards people to sort of the multiple forms. I can understand that much more than I can understand the stopping illegal immigration sort of thing, because I don't understand how this would stop illegal immigration unless you are asking to see people's ID. You're not going to find illegal migrants unless you stop people in the street, unless you stop them at their place of work, unless you become a papers, please society.
Well, as well as learning from India, I hope the Prime Minister also picks up the phone to our counterparts in France. But again, not to copy their system, but their digital ID has essentially shut down the shadow economy. It's very difficult to work illegally in France and not be found out.
Hang on 1 second, because we've reported on this a lot at GB News. People stealing other people's or borrowing other people's delivery accounts.
Yeah.
You know, you order something, a delivery driver comes up, the person who gives you your pizza is not the same as the person that your phone tells you is going to give you the pizza. Unless you're going to stop delivery drivers and demand to see their ID, you're not going to be able to solve that problem because they're using fake IDs. Similarly, I mean, if you want to get a job, perhaps as a farmhand, you're going to have to show a national insurance number. Perhaps in this new system, you'd have to show your digital ID. But if the person doing the hiring doesn't ask for the national insurance number, why would they ask for the digital ID?
I think you're fast becoming an advert and a poster boy for digital ID here, because something like a delivery driver, yes, you have to upload your passport, but guess what? When you are making that journey across the channel, when you're risking your life, those gangs aren't just selling you passage, they're also selling you fake passports. A digital ID is much harder to duplicate and copy. So if you need one of those in order to sign up for, I don't know...
They're not signing up, they're just sharing someone else's account.
But you can then make regular checks if you need to in the same...
So that does become a papers, please society, because you're stopping people going about their business and asking to see their ID.
Well, I don't think you're stopping delivery drivers on the street, but what you can start to see is data flows from that. So for delivery drivers signing up and they're making, I don't know, an extraordinary number of deliveries per day, which is a bit of a sign that maybe this account's being abused, then yeah, I think you do want someone to prove their identity.
You don't need an ID card.
Yeah, but it's very difficult then to go back to someone and say, show me who you are, but it's much easier to enforce.
2 points. Many of the organisations employing people illegally don't give a monkeys about ID. They're not going to ask for it, whether it's a paper ID or a digital ID. And data breaches. How many mobile phones do we have stolen in an hour in most of our big cities?
Yeah.
I mean, if all my information is on that phone, it's bad enough as it is at the moment. If all my information is on that phone and it's snatched, and that happens all the time, that's a lot of information there to worry about.
It's a lot of it, but it sounds to me like there's a lot of information already on that phone. And again, as well as picking up the phone to his Indian counterpart and French counterpart, I want the Prime Minister to speak to the Ukrainians who have a digital ID that has managed to withstand daily attacks from one of the most aggressive cyber-attacking nations in this world, Russia. So we can make the data private and secure. Just to come back to this illegal immigration point, I think there is a distinction to be made between living illegally and working illegally, and having a digital ID can start to shut down living illegally as well as working illegally. A lot of the people that you're talking about who are using fake passports in order to become delivery drivers, they are doing that so that they can send money back home. You can make it much more difficult to open up a remittance account, for example, using digital ID. You can make it much more difficult for these people to open up a bank account, and you then just start to shut down all of the arteries and veins of the shadow economy. But I do think the biggest opportunity with digital ID is to give this country the upgrade that it desperately needs and deserves, frankly, in terms of our public services.
Do you think that our data would be safe in one centralised government institution? No. I mean, governments are terrible at handling personal data.
Let's not create a centralised database. And again, this is why we are learning from the Indian government but not copying them. I think having a centralised database is probably the wrong approach. But what you can do is have your data encrypted, and then digital ID just pulls it from the respective sources, which you're right to identify, Tom, it already exists. But I do think it makes data much more safer. I'm trying to apply for schools now for my daughter, and I just look back at my sent emails to see how I was proving who I was to the different authorities and different institutions. And I'm sending, with black marks put through, I'm sending bank statements with my address on, where I'm having to scribble out the names and details and transactions that I've done. That is data that I shouldn't be sharing with anyone. And again, I go back to the passports and driver's licence that we say we've got already, so we don't need it. The amount of data on them is extraordinary. I don't think we sometimes realise, myself included, just how much we are giving away in such an insecure, non-privacy preserving way. If digital ID can change that, bring it on.
OK, I just want to read one message actually before you disappear. It's a message from Mike. Digital ID, the only people need identifying and tracking are MPs, government officials and civil servants to see exactly what they are doing and where they are. That's a lot of people.
I think we should send that to Keir Starmer and see whether he's up for that as well.
OK, Ryan Wayne, thanks indeed.
Thank you.
Coming in, Executive Director of Politics at the Tony Blair Institute.
And keep those coming in, by the way. Let us know what you've just heard Ryan say. Do you agree with him? Do you disagree with him? I get an impression not many of you do. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show.
Yes, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has vowed to ban anti-Semitic doctors from treating patients as the government looks to follow through on its pledge to crack down on anti-Jewish hatred. All of that and much more to come after your latest news headlines with Sam.
Very good afternoon to you. Just after 1:30, the top story this lunchtime. Donald Trump says Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal, a potential breakthrough that could see fighting halt within hours. The deal would see all Israeli hostages and some Palestinian prisoners released, humanitarian aid enter Gaza, and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines. Donald Trump spoke to Fox News just hours after the deal was announced.
It's brought the whole world together. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. It's brought peace to the world, I'm telling you.
Sir Keir Starmer has hailed that agreement as a moment of profound relief that he says will be felt around the world. If approved by Israel's cabinet later, a ceasefire could begin within hours. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer is in India meeting Prime Minister Modi on what's been called a historic trade mission. He's unveiled new business and film deals, saying the UK-India partnership could boost Britain's economy by nearly £5 billion a year. Here, millions of households are facing even higher water bills after 5 suppliers, including Anglian and Wessex, won their appeal to raise bills. The watchdog allowed an extra 3% rise on top of Ofwat's already approved 36% increase. Hate crimes across England and Wales have risen for the first time in 3 years, up 2% to nearly 116,000. Race and religious hate crimes hit record highs, driven by a near 20% spike in anti-Muslim offences. And 3 universities from the UK have made the global top 10. Oxford, for the 10th year in the running, is first, Cambridge joined 3rd and Imperial 8th. But overall, the UK slipped slightly, with fewer institutions in the world's top 500 for the first time since 2016. Those are your lunchtime headlines. I'll be back with you at 2.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure is now moving in from the west. That means it's going to be fine for many of us today, with some sunshine out there, although a lot of cloud at the same time, particularly towards the northwest of the country, where we're on the periphery of the high pressure, and a strong breeze will continue into the north and northwest of Scotland, along with thicker cloud and some patches of rain here and there, some spots of rain for Northern Ireland into northwest England as well. But away from those areas, actually, it's dry, it's settled, and the best of the sunshine through the rest of the day will be across South Wales, southern England and parts of northeast England and eastern Scotland. Feeling pleasant where the sun shines, with temperatures above average for the time of year. Now, overnight, we keep the cloudy zones through central and northwestern parts of the country. Where we do get clear spells towards the far south, temperatures will fall away after dark, but in the northwest, a lot of cloud and still some drizzly rain for Northern Ireland, northwest England, western Scotland, especially for western hills of Scotland, but some decent cloud breaks there for eastern Scotland, northeast England, as well as the cloud breaks up over higher ground to the west. And as we go through the nights, some cloud will filter south, but southwest England likely to stay mostly clear, and it's here that temperatures will fall the furthest, with a few mist and fog patches forming by dawn, with light winds expected here as well, temperatures into the single figures. Eastern Scotland as well, some bright weather first thing, but a lot of cloud elsewhere across the country. Some light showers into the Midlands, northwest England, and that will stick around into the afternoon. But actually it progressively gets brighter in many places. Certainly a brighter day for the Midlands by the end of the afternoon. Wales, northern England and eastern Scotland. Temperatures reaching 18 or 19 Celsius.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Delays impact the M74 northbound off-slip at junction 2A due to a broken down vehicle. Approach cautiously. Heavy goods vehicles on the M48 face a 7.5-tonne weight restriction from May 27, 2025 until further notice. In Leicestershire, a road collision on the A42 northbound closes one lane, with normal conditions expected between 3:45 and 4. And on the trains, cross-country services are disrupted between Brockenhurst and Southampton Central, while northern buses replace trains between Corkickle and Whitehaven. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
On screen as well.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 20 to 2, and the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has drawn up new plans to root out anti-Semitism in the NHS.
Yes, indeed. The new measures being proposed would mean any doctor being referred to a hearing over their conduct would be immediately suspended.
Well, a government source said it was ridiculous that medics are free to continue operating with impunity until a tribunal can be held.
OK, we're now joined by GP and health commentator Dr Basha Mukherjee. Thank you very much for coming into this. Really appreciate your time. What do you make of this decision?
I think it's really difficult. I think the particular case that we're talking about, this person had made, a sign which would be seen as not in keeping with the GMC guidelines, especially as a doctor, we're here to preserve life, and obviously this sign was the opposite of that. But at the same time, I'm a doctor, and I'm someone who's on social media, I'm on this channel quite a lot, and I get people consistently coming up on social media saying, I'm going to report you for saying this, I'm going to report you for having this opinion. And I'm just thinking, regardless of which side of the spectrum you're on, this censorship, we are humans as well. We should be allowed to have a life outside of our clinic rooms, and it shouldn't reflect on what we're doing at work.
I do understand the point where you're coming from, because this is obviously a sort of catch-all thing. Anyone referred to any tribunal would not be allowed to see their patients. I mean, could there be something more specific? Because there does seem to be a problem. I mean, it's not just one case that I've seen reported over the course of the last few days, but there, like doctor after doctor after doctor who has said horrific things about October the 7th, who has said some really nasty things about Jewish people. It does raise an element of concern about what is going on within the medical community.
And absolutely, and I will say that these topics are not easy to discuss, and we are doctors, but at the end of the day, there are people, we have opinions about certain things, we can feel a certain way about certain things, and of course it is difficult.
But let's not beat around the bush. This is racism that we're talking about. We're talking about racist
And
doctors.
I'm talking about, I've faced the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of racism, but for the opposite reasons and other reasons, basically. My question is, why should anybody be, put through the censorship, this level of censorship? I understand on this particular case, that sign and perhaps the context of it is abhorrent. Absolutely agree with that. But at the same time, I'm in disagreement of this censorship that continues to happen about every little thing that any doctor says on the media or on their social media. How is this reflective of what they're doing at work? And why can't they have a life outside of work and a personality outside of work? everybody else is allowed
But
to.
if that personality leaves patients in fear of the way they're going to be treated by a doctor, surely that has to be looked at. We have to do something about that system.
Yes, absolutely, and that's where I think it's really important. I mean...
Ash, I'm so sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you. The Prime Minister is speaking live in India.
The historic UK-India Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. It's a huge deal for the United Kingdom. The most ambitious trade deal India has ever done. And like our deals with the US and the EU, people said it would never happen. They said it couldn't be done. But we did it because this government's approach, outward-facing, proud and determined to deliver for Britain. And as a result, we're opening up new opportunities in India for British businesses. Opportunities that other countries simply do not have. It has given us a unique edge. So I've come here this week, leading our biggest trade delegation to India ever, to follow through on this deal. That means 126 CEOs, tech entrepreneurs, SMEs, vice-chancellors, sports and cultural leaders, all here with me to seize the incredible benefits that this deal offers to the British people. The opportunity is clear. Just look at the sheer scale of India, the world's largest democracy, on track to become the third largest economy by 2028, an economic superpower in the making. And we, the UK, are perfectly placed to be partners on that journey. We want to build the sectors and the skills of the future together. So this trade deal is a launchpad to boost British leadership in everything from tech to life sciences to renewable energy and much more beyond that. And we've seized these opportunities in full this week, delivering real results for the British people, securing new investments into the UK worth £1.3 billion and creating 10,600 jobs. That's remarkable. It includes 1,500 jobs in the North West, over 1,000 across the Midlands, 200 in Yorkshire and the Humber, and 700 in Northern Ireland. Great jobs in advanced engineering, in defence, in car production, filmmaking and technology, delivering real change that people will see in their communities up and down the country. And that's what this is all about. And what we're doing together in tech is a great example. The UK is one of only 3 countries in the world with a $1 trillion tech sector. India is poised to be the 4th. We're both top 4 AI powers, and we're taking this opportunity to go further. We're deepening the UK-India Technology Security Initiative to boost opportunities for great British companies and deliver dozens of new investments into the United Kingdom, harnessing tech as one of the biggest engines that we have for jobs and for growth. Other standout wins this week have come in filmmaking, with the announcement that 3 new Bollywood blockbusters will be made in the United Kingdom. And in education, with the announcement today that the University of Lancaster and the University of Surrey will open new campuses in India, joining other British universities setting up here, and making the UK India's top international education provider. So we're out there leading the way and winning these opportunities for our country, because the fact is this relationship matters more than ever across the economy, security, energy, climate and more. Our history together is deep. The human connections between our people are truly special. So this week we've built on all of that. Building on our historic trade deal, we're remaking this partnership for our times. Forward-facing, focused on winning the opportunities of the future together and bringing them home for the British people. Now, before I open up for questions, I want to strongly welcome the news that a deal has been reached. This will come as a profound relief for the hostages and their families and the civilian population in Gaza, and for the whole world. And we will now work with our partners to ensure that this deal is implemented in full and without delay. Thank you. And now I'll take a few questions, and I'm starting with Alex from the BBC.
Prime Minister, thank you very much. Alex Forsyth, BBC News. You've just described the Gaza peace plan as a moment of profound relief. Can you spell out what you see as the next steps for the future governance of Gaza, and who should that involve? And when you discussed the war in Ukraine with Prime Minister Modi, did you raise the issue of India buying Russian oil?
Well, let me start with Gaza because, as I say, I strongly welcome this deal, and I will take this opportunity to put on record my thanks to President Trump for his leadership on this, to the Qataris, to Egypt and Turkey, who've done really important work in the negotiations. It is a relief to the world, and I think particularly of the hostages who've been held a very long time and their families, and to all the civilians in Gaza who've been so affected by this conflict. And so it does now need to be implemented. And as for the next stages, we, the UK, stand ready to work with others on implementing the next stages. We're set out in the plan, but it is a really important step that's been reached here, and that's why I strongly welcome it. On the question of Ukraine and Russia, yes, we did discuss that this morning with President Modi, and we each went through the steps we're taking to bring about a resolution of the conflict. And we emphasised in particular our focus on the shadow fleet and the work that we're doing leading the coalition of the willing. Thank you, Alex. Can I come to Carl? ITV.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Can I push you on that just a little bit? Did you ask the Indian Prime Minister to stop buying Russian oil and stop funding Russia's war machine in Ukraine? And separately, did you raise the issue of British man Jagtar Singh Johal? What did you ask and what was the response?
So on the first question of Russia-Ukraine, we did discuss this and looked particularly at the outcome that we both want. So Prime Minister Modi and myself, the focus on ending this conflict and the various steps that could be taken to that end. And that was a wide-ranging discussion, but we did set out the steps that we are taking in relation to energy, particularly on the shadow fleet, and the work of the Coalition of the Willing. On the consular cases, yes, we did raise the consular cases. We always raise them when we have the opportunity to do so. I should say that the Foreign Secretary is meeting the families in coming weeks, as well as raising it today. Thank you. Sam from Sky.
Sam Coates, Sky News. Prime Minister, it looks like Tony Blair is going to have quite a big role overseeing Gaza. Should we trust his instincts on that? And also, you spoke to the boss of Infosys yesterday about the successful rollout of digital ID in India. What lessons did you take away from that conversation?
Well, just in relation to the situation in the Middle East, the first and most important thing to say is that the deal today is a real breakthrough. That is why it's important that we recognise that and recognise the human impact that is going to have on those that have been most affected. And that's why I've referenced, in particular, the hostages, their families, and all civilians in Gaza who have been through unimaginable horrors and grief over the last period of this conflict. Now it does need to be implemented. I'm less interested, to be perfectly frank, in discussions about personnel than I am in getting it implemented. The UK has played an important part behind the scenes in relation to these negotiations, working with the US and mediators, and we stand ready to play our part in implementing this, again, with others as we go forward. For me, what matters is the substance of what happens next, and that is what we're totally focused on. In relation to digital ID, we did discuss this yesterday, and in particular the benefits that it has brought in India. We've obviously also looked at other countries, Estonia, for example, and the speed with which it allows citizens here to access services, particularly financial services, is something that was recognised in our discussions yesterday and actually at the FinTech discussion that we had today as well. So we're looking at those examples of how digital ID helps individuals with the processes that sometimes take too long and are too cumbersome and makes them easier for them. Thank you very much. Can I go to Paul at Channel 4?
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. In the first line of your statement this morning, and you've just repeated it now, you called it, quote, President Trump's peace plan for Gaza. So, yes or no, do you now think that President Trump will be a deserved winner of the Nobel Peace Prize?
Well, look, it is a very significant step forward, and it would not have happened without President Trump's leadership on this. And I want to be really clear about that, and I say that from the informed position of the UK having played a part behind the scenes in this with the US and with the mediators. What matters now is to press on and implement this. All parties need to implement and agree and take forward the commitments that they have made to the next stage. That is hugely important. We will work with others to ensure that that happens, but my focus now is moving this from the stage it's at now, which is really welcome, strongly welcomed, to ensuring that we now move on to the next stage and make a success of this, because that matters to me more than anything else. Thank you. Catherine, GB.
Catherine Forster, GB News, thank you. Catherine Forster, GB News, thank you. Prime Minister, we've all seen thousands of pictures of you, very large, round this city, and people clearly delighted to see you. How does that feel? And also, though you're very popular here, you're really very unpopular at the moment at home. And you know, digital ID had public support, you announced it. Lots of people now seem to have changed their minds on that. Do you have the reverse Midas touch at home? Pardon me.
Well, look, firstly, the situation here in India, it is really good that the UK is as welcomed as it has been these last 2 days in India. That is good for the United Kingdom. And so I am pleased that the welcome here has been warm. It's been warm for a reason, and I think that's because people recognise that under this government we've strengthened the relationship. We have pulled off the FTA, which other governments have tried and failed to do, and we've done it successfully. And now both Indian businesses and UK businesses want to build on that, and there is really enthusiasm for the relationship. That is a good thing for our country, so I'm really, really pleased about that, and that we can take that forward. So that is a good thing. The second bit of your question, I'm sorry, I forgot. Look, I mean, on digital ID, let me be really clear about it. Firstly, we have made a commitment to do whatever we can to stop people arriving illegally in the United Kingdom. One of the issues is the ability people have to work illegally in our economy. We have to do something about that. We can't shirk that or duck that. And we had a strong manifesto commitment to deal with it. I think the vast majority, if not everyone in the UK, wants it gripped. And we need to therefore take measures necessary to grip it. One of the things on digital ID that I do think we need to emphasise and make the case for, frankly, is the great benefits of digital ID. You can see from Estonia the speed with which people can access services that are available to them, which have been transformational, and there's great enthusiasm in Estonia for it. Here in India, I think it's 1 billion people have digital ID. It's been taken up on a voluntary basis in huge numbers. Not least because it means that you can access your own money, make payments so much more easily than is available with others. So I think now we need to go out and make that case of the huge benefits that this will bring. There needs to be a national debate about it, and I think that the more people see the benefits that come with this, the more, as has happened in other countries, people say that will make my life easier. and therefore I want to get on with it. Thank you very much, Catherine. I've got Jess from The Guardian.
Prime Minister, thank you. You've got a huge trade delegation here, and I think the last time there was one this big was Theresa May's delegation to China in 2018. I wonder if you can tell us whether that country is next on your list next year for a big trade trip, and do you have the same hopes for that relationship as the way you've improved it here?
Well, I'm really pleased that this is the biggest trade mission ever to India, and actually one of the most diverse in the sense that we've got big businesses, iconic businesses, we've got smaller or medium-sized businesses, but we've also got universities represented through their vice-chancellors, sports bodies, cultural bodies, filmmaking bodies, fashion industry, have all come together in this trip. And that shows the breadth of the possibility, because they've come here to take advantage of those opportunities. Yes, I want to press on with others. We've already obviously got a trade deal with the US and with the EU. In the more uncertain world of tariffs, I think it's to the advantage of the United Kingdom to lower trade barriers with other countries. In relation to China, that's not on our list for a trade deal as such, but our position is to cooperate where we can, challenge where we must, and that's been the consistent policy of the government in relation to China. Thank you very much. I've got Aubrey from The Times.
Hello, Prime Minister. Aubrey Alagressi from The Times. On that theme of the challenge, I'm hoping you can clear up some of the claims around the China spy case. Today we've heard from Mark Sedwill, who's obviously predecessor of Jonathan Powles as National Security Advisor, and he said that of course China is a national security threat, and he finds the official explanation about why the trial collapsed very hard to understand. So if he's saying that, he can't be the only one. Can you say categorically whether any minister or Jonathan Powell was involved in the decision not to provide the CPS with evidence that, at the time the offences were alleged to have taken place, China represented a threat to national security? If ministers didn't take that decision, who did? And finally, can you explain why the government refused to provide this evidence when there are multiple examples on the public record from the time of China being referred to as a threat to national security?
The evidence in this case was drawn up at the time and reflected the position as it was at the time. And that has remained the situation from start to finish. That is inevitably the case because in the United Kingdom you can only try people on the basis of the situation as it was at the time. You can't try people on the basis of the situation as it now is or might be in the future. And therefore the only evidence that a court would ever admit on this would be evidence of what the situation was at the time. So that's the base on which the evidence was drawn up. The witness statements were drawn up, and I can be absolutely clear, no ministers were involved in any of the decisions since this government's been in relation to the evidence that's put before the court on this issue. The evidence was the evidence as it then was. That's the only relevant evidence. That evidence was the situation as it was under the last government, the Tory government, rather under this government. It's not a party political point, it's a matter of law. You can only try someone on the basis of the situation as it was at the time of the alleged offence. You can't try them on the basis of the situation as it might evolve weeks, months, years down the line. That's a fundamental, and that's at the centre of this particular issue. Thank you very much. And then Times of India. Yes.
Mr. Starmer, I just wanted to ask you, with this UK-India trade deal, to what extent does a trade deal like this help counter US tariffs for the UK and India? How optimistic are you about this?
I think there's huge optimism about the trade deal, and you can, I think, sense that from this trip. There was optimism in July in Chequers when we hosted Prime Minister Modi and we signed the deal. There's just as much optimism here with businesses already taking advantage of the new spirit, if you like, that's been brought about by the trade deal, because the trade deal is still to be implemented, which we're going to do at speed, but already it's opened up new opportunities and new confidence. Both Prime Minister Modi and I recognise that in a world which is more uncertain now in trade and the economy, it is significant that two important and great democracies the UK and India have signed this agreement, provided that stability and that certainty, because that's what provides the opportunities, some of which we've already harnessed in the last 48 hours whilst we've been here, 10,600 jobs through the opportunities just whilst this delegation has been on the ground. So a really big opportunity, both for the UK and for India. And in a sense, that's not just what I'm saying and the Prime Minister is saying here. It's what businesses are saying. It's the discussions they're having. It's what cultural institutions are saying. It's what the universities are saying. They see this as deeply significant in an uncertain world, and they're right about that. Thank you very much.
Well, if you're just joining us now, this has been a press conference with Prime Minister Keir Starmer live in Mumbai on his Indian visit. Let's get some immediate reaction now with the former Labour MP, now Life peer, Lord Walney. This is, of course, a significant moment for Keir Starmer. He seems to enjoy being abroad at the moment more than he does being in the United Kingdom.
These overseas visits, when you're actually there, feel like a carnival and a bubble. But it is a really significant achievement. These trade deals were not a given. He has done extraordinarily well to land this, and it can have a really significant impact over the years on economic growth. But look, the issue is, and you see that in the press conference there, where he wants to talk about the economic breakthrough, and actually everyone just wants to talk about everything that's happening at home. The public are no longer in a mood to bank the idea of jam making its way through the system, and it's really difficult for all of the government ministers because they have to do the long-term stuff, but they know they're not going to get any credit for it until it starts making a difference tangibly to people's lives.
It's really interesting. One of the questions he refused to answer was, given the peace deal, given whether President Trump should receive the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, the question was literally, should he have the Nobel Peace Prize, yes or no? 15 minutes later. I'm over-egging that. It wasn't quite 15 minutes, but there was still no yes or no. Wouldn't answer that.
No, but I think there is an element of news channels wanting to reduce this to personality binary questions.
To an answer.
But I can understand why he, perhaps failingly, wants to try to talk about the prospect of a deal, and there is an element of not jinxing this until the deal is done and the hostages are home and the Israeli troops have withdrawn, and then there will be the discussions, and it does look like President Trump has played an enormously important role. And look, Keir, the Prime Minister, has not been backwards in coming forwards to praise him in the past, but let's just get this landed first.
OK, Lord Walney, do stay with us, but we're going to move on to another enormous story now, because it's, of course, an historic day as this peace plan is agreed to help end the war in Gaza.
Yes, indeed. Donald Trump, who we've just been talking about, says Israel and Hamas have signed off on the first phase of the US-led deal.
Well, Palestinians and Israelis have taken to the streets to celebrate the deal, which could see the release of all remaining hostages and a ceasefire in Gaza, perhaps even in just the next hour or two.
Yeah, Mark White is back in the studio with us at GB News Home and Security Editor. Mark, any developments? America is fully awake now?
Well, we're still awaiting that cabinet to start in about an hour's time, and once they've ratified this deal, which we're expecting, that ceasefire will begin immediately. We were talking last hour and looking at these live pictures of Gaza where you could still see smoke rising above the rubble there. The Israeli military very clearly telling the people of Gaza, look, there is no ceasefire as yet, so stay away from the areas that you've been told to evacuate from, because it is still a war zone until that ceasefire comes in. So hopefully that camera will pan around at some point, but at the moment they're looking at what is obviously a rubble-strewn landscape there with you know, some of the buildings still standing, but so many of these buildings in complete ruins.
It is so fascinating to see live pictures there inside Gaza. It's a perspective we don't actually see all that often. Of course, no international journalists have been able to go into Gaza. Perhaps that will change as this deal, if ratified, sort of rolls out. But really interesting to look there at people standing on the beachfront, perhaps wondering, perhaps hoping, is this ordeal all going to be over in perhaps even 1 hour's time?
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty live shots of Gaza, but they've been taken from towns like Sderot, where I was back after October the 7th, standing on the sort of a mound there overlooking Gaza 2 or 3 miles in the distance and trying to do it on the long end of the lens. And you're right, Tom, this is fascinating being able to see, and you see the destruction up close there. There's going to be an enormous task at hand when we hopefully get to that point, when all of the other issues around the ceasefire initially, the return of the remaining 48 hostages, the 20 who are still alive, and 28 bodies, and then, of course, Israel withdrawing, as they're saying, well, they're going to withdraw first to these pre-arranged lines, but will withdraw further. There's the implementation of this interim administration there that will involve some of the Arab neighbours. They need to get that up and working and get over some of the really difficult issues about what role, if any, can Hamas play. Israel doesn't want, understandably, Hamas to play any role in this, but they absolutely have to, in the first instance, disarm to go forward with this. Now, they say they are buying into Trump's peace deal here. So it's a 20-step plan. It's not going to be easy, but I think people are more optimistic than they have been, you know, for the entire 2 years of this conflict.
Mark, just give us a timescale of what we can expect to happen this weekend. We're expecting the peace deal to be signed today, the initial phases of it. That's happening with...
As soon as it's signed, we'll have a ceasefire. So the munitions that are still going into the Gaza Strip will cease.
And then we're expecting the hostages to be released and
then we're expecting
to go the other way.
In 24 hours, the Israeli military to withdraw to pre-arranged locations, freeing up large parts of the Gaza Strip, then for people to be able to start returning. And then the clock will start ticking for Hamas. They'll have 72 hours to release the hostages. President Trump has already said that he expects the hostages to be released on Monday. Some say it might be a bit quicker. We don't know.
And, of course, rumours abound now that Donald Trump himself will head to the Middle East, perhaps as soon as Saturday, which also could be the earliest point that these hostages are released.
Absolutely. But he'll want to be assured that actually this is underway, that the ceasefire is in effect, that the hostages, you know, that there is a sort of motion in train to start getting the hostages released. So the last thing he wants to do is effectively do what he did with President Putin and fly all of the way to speak to Vladimir Putin, expect big things from that, only to be, you know, led up the garden path in true sort of Russian style. So let's just see what he does and how that progresses. But I think you're right. Understandably, he's played a major part in this. It's him that, you know, has grabbed Netanyahu by the scruff of the neck and said, look, it's got to end now. You cannot keep fighting the world.
OK,
so
let's bring Lord Warney back into the conversation. Lord Warney, on the face of it, this is good news. This is a reason people are celebrating in Tel Aviv, we've seen, and people are celebrating in Gaza. What are your thoughts?
Well, I tried to put myself, and it's really hard, into the minds of the hostage families who have waited now 2 years for their loved ones to return, and the agony that they have been suffering, and the fact that this is so close now, that the few remaining, relatively few remaining living hostages may release, and others may get the sense of being able to start the process of closure and grieving by seeing that the bodies is enormously important. And then, yes, the devastation that has been seen in Gaza. I think there has been a growing sense in certainly, of course, across the world looking on from this, but most importantly within Israel, that this cannot go on without an endpoint. So enormously optimistic to get to the next stage. But then, look, as Mark says, there is so much complexity beyond that, and it's very clear this is an agreement for stage one, not for the long-term future of the region.
But astonishing that, I mean, we keep saying this cabinet meeting in Israel in the next 45 minutes, I mean, that could then ratify this and the bombs could stop. I mean, it's just the most remarkable moment. But to bring it back to this country for a second, every Saturday we've seen protests and marches. Many people on those marches, of course, will have the purest of hearts, will be upset by the images of devastation in Gaza. But many people that they march alongside will have hatred in their hearts and have expressed the most vile forms of anti-Semitic abuse. There is a protest now planned for this Saturday that is going full steam ahead, whether or not there is a ceasefire.
Yeah.
I'm just struggling to think, what are they protesting for, or indeed, what are they protesting against, if the war ends?
Yeah, they are, and exactly so. The motivation of many of those who have organised and driven the protests and been angriest and loudest in their condemnation, this has not actually been about ending a conflict. It's been about ending Israel, which they believe is an abhorrence and are deeply opposed to the idea of legitimacy for that state, and are very happy for that to spill out into intimidation of Jewish people. It was instructive to read the advertisement put out by this new party started by Jeremy Corbyn, that they were saying, we will go on with these until the occupation ends, and actually including, really, in a really sinister way, the red triangle, which has come to signify support for Hamas. This is a really dark moment, and it underlines why the government needs to make a genuine commitment to the country and towns who've been affected by this, but Jewish people who have been intimidated, that they will take the power to stop marches in these circumstances, not simply put conditions on them, which is only as far as they've gone at the moment.
I've got many Jewish friends who are concerned, again, about the march going on this weekend, given the fact that we seem to be on the verge of what people were campaigning for. And they are worried that this is very little to do with the people of Palestine and everything to do with simply hating Jewish people. Yeah, that's always been an underlying current within the anti-Israel movement, which has infected the parts of the left in the country as well as the far right. It's been a decades-long thing, but what you've seen since 7th of October is that underlying hatred and intolerance has exploded onto the surface. People have become much bolder. When the Community and Security Trust, who are the group that works so hard to protect Jewish people, Jewish communities in Britain, they make the point, they track anti-Semitic incidents, and they make the point that the biggest spike in those anti-Semitic incidents came on the 7th of October and the day after on the 8th. So before any Israeli response, and it was about people feeling emboldened and a sense of joy that there had been this horrific attack on Israel.
I mean, we've seen some of the posts by some of the people on these marches, but some media figures as well.
Sure.
On the 7th of October, celebrating the slaughter of over 1,000 Jewish people, just the most staggering response. Those protests organised before Gaza was invaded. And these protests are now planning to go on after the invasion withdraws. It makes you think that these Gaza protests aren't actually about Gaza as a primary cause. Mark White, still in the studio with us. What's the government saying about these protests?
Well, on the issue of wider protests, we know, of course, that they are passing the legislation to be able to make it tougher for repeat protests if they bring with them problems and disruption for communities. But that doesn't mean they're just going to ban protests willy-nilly if they decide that it's not conducive to the public good. Some might like to see that, but that's not going to happen as yet. The hope has to be, at least if we do get a more meaningful peace process being embarked on now in that region, and as I have to say, we've got to constantly caveat this with we're only at the very first step here, a long road to go. We've seen many false dawns before when it comes to the Israeli-Palestine conflict. But if we get a more meaningful peace process, it's got to be hoped that that might take some of the heat out of it, although only some of the heat, because we've got another issue, and we've got to be frank about this as well. We've seen, with the influx of mass migration, with many people from that part of the world, from the Middle East, that take with them many of the resentments that many hold within that region towards Israel, and that can inflame the situation as well. So it's not just those on the left that might hold these traditional sort of anti-Israeli views. There are many more people in this country than there were just a few years ago from that part of the world.
And that's so strange, because we think of this as a distant conflict, thousands of miles away, but actually it's a conflict that is playing out on our streets, in our cities.
If I may, yes, and that sense of a foreign conflict being imported here is just one of the things that I think makes the majority of British people despair for the state of the country when it brings so much intimidation. And Mark's right, hopefully. Let's hope that Mark is right, that you might see the anger dissipate somewhat, but the crucial thing now, after the appalling murders, Islamist murders of the Jewish people outside the synagogue in Manchester, is that the Prime Minister makes good on his promise to do whatever it takes to make the country safe for Jewish people, and that means tackling the Islamist extremism, which has been embedded in too many pockets of our communities. It's not enough just to allow the heat to go out of this and then go back to how we were. This sustained action is what is critically important now.
John, very, very quickly and finally, we're even seeing this attitude within our hospitals, within the NHS.
Yeah.
People not just sort of like, strong Islamist views in our hospitals. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's truly frightening, and I think it's important always to point out that when we're talking about Islamists, it's a very different thing to the vast to Muslim people of the Muslim faith who we welcome into our hospitals, of course. Well done to Wes Streeting for saying that those people must not be allowed to work in the NHS. But again, look, it's important and necessary for a government minister to say that. What we need to see is them keeping the eye on the ball to make sure that that can actually happen, and that anyone that expresses those kind of anti-Semitic views is not allowed to take taxpayers' money and put potentially Jewish patients at risk when they come to be treated.
Lord Warney, thanks indeed for being here in the studio with us, and indeed to Mark White too. Big goings on. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
Yes, indeed. King Charles is set to star in an Amazon Prime documentary that explores his lifelong commitment to the philosophy of harmony and the environment. But after the break,
Nigel Farage is set to meet the billionaire chemical tycoon Jim Ratcliffe before Christmas, as he sets to look to get big business on side.
All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you very, very soon.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 27 minutes past 2 nearly, and party conference season may be over, but that hasn't stopped party leaders pressing the flesh and trying to woo the wealthy.
Yes, the Reform Party leader, Nigel Farage, is set to meet the tycoon and Manchester United co-owner, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, before Christmas, all as he tries to get big business on side.
Yeah, the two already have some common cause, having described clean energy targets as absurd.
But let's discuss it and more with the political commentator Benedict Spence. Benedict, Nigel Farage is leading in the polls. He could well win the most seats in Wales in May. He could well win a number of new mayoralties in May. Who do you think had the best party conference season?
Well, I suppose overall, Reform have not sort of gone down much from where they were. They've managed to sort of keep treading water. I would say that the Conservatives have had probably the best party conference season. Having said that, they were going in with very, very low expectations. Everybody was just...
They've gone from negative expectations to they won't get rid of their leader.
People were just happy that it was a coherent speech, and actually the fact that it had good policies was kind of like, oh, wow, OK, icing on the cake. I suppose it's very difficult for other people looking in, but Labour, almost nothing of any sort of significance has come through. Nobody's paying attention to what Keir Starmer had to say, apart from the memes about what is Britain, half-time oranges, all that sort of thing. So that's a bit of a joke. Nobody was really paying too much attention to the Lib Dems either. Reform, it was sort of quite bold, it was quite brash, but it was, I think, a little light on detail, and also far too many ex-Tories, frankly, on the stage. Actually, Kemi Badenoch has sort of come out and she's been rather measured, and Jenrick was also doing the rounds, but he wasn't clearly as on manoeuvres as he has been in the past, whilst making himself sort of very visible. And I think even though you could not say right now, the Tories are back, it's all going to come to fruition, you could say, OK, there's the beginnings of a correction there. Now, of course, this being British politics, every chance that they fall back off that horse at the first opportunity. But I would say a very low-scoring Tory win, with probably Reform then in second, because their opinion polling hasn't been harmed too much.
I mean, the stamp duty thing was a stroke of genius, a great announcement. It got the floor on their feet. She got a standing ovation for it. But we are going to have to wait 4 years.
Oh, of course. Well, who knows? If we don't have to wait 4 years, something catastrophic has happened. So in some ways, you might want to hope that it's 4 years because the economy hasn't actually imploded. The strange thing about all of this is actually, even though Reform and the Tories are in a sort of an existential death match, only one of them can really survive. In the short term, it's good for Reform to have a stronger Tory party to keep them honest. Because actually, if you have Kemi Badenoch coming out with things like this, and she's able, I think, because the Tories are doing so badly, to throw more policies out there that perhaps are a bit more of a gamble and see what sticks and what doesn't. Reform will be able to, if they're smart, cherry-pick the good stuff and go, that's a very nice idea, I'll nick that as well. So, short-term, it helps to have the Tories on a sort of a corrective course. Obviously, long-term, only one of them can survive, though.
I suppose this Sir Jim Ratcliffe story is all about the Reform Party trying to grow up. Because The message from the Tories over the course of the last week was, look how much hard work we've been doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yes, we haven't been on your televisions as much as Mr Farage, but that's because we've been doing the numbers and finding these savings and coming up with all of this sort of policy and 200-page legal reports about the ECHR, doing the work.
Yeah.
I wonder if this meeting between Farage and Sir Jim, more money perhaps coming in to reform, is the necessary professionalisation of that outfit that can sometimes look a bit of a fag packet.
It lends an air of legitimacy if you have people who have demonstrably gone out and created things and are successful, if they turn around and then say that this is something that they can get behind, as long as it's not simply about I'm donating to this party because it's promised to do something that I want, but people who actually do pontificate more broadly about the state of the economy and state of business or other things. It's slightly unfortunate, obviously, that this is also the owner of Manchester United. That doesn't necessarily suggest that he gets everything right, but undoubtedly Ineos is, it's a titan of industry in this country. It is something that actually most people have heard of, be it, chemicals, or be it or the automotive sector. This is somebody who actually, as I say, it adds that air of legitimacy. And one of the things I would say about the Tory party and why it's sort of slightly premature to say that it's dead is that for a very long time there has been a vested interest in the success and the survival of that party by this sort of person, and that there was always going to be money going to the Tory party, even when it wasn't doing particularly well, because people, like Sir Jim Ratcliffe, would look one eye on the future and go, these are my people long term. If Reform can siphon those off and be able to say, not only do we have the money, but we have people who have gone out into the world and have actually made something of it, coming to us and saying, this could work if you work with us. That's something that I think a lot of ordinary people, they take a lot of comfort from that, I think.
I mean, he is worth 23.5 billion. Very interestingly, in this piece, though, it does also say that Nigel Farage has requested the meeting, but Sir Jim Ratcliffe also says he has also met up with Kemi Badenoch recently as well. And Reform and Conservatives both have the same policy on net zero. They're going to scrap the target.
Well, I mean, a smart businessman is not going to put all of his eggs in one basket. And then that's, again, though, it goes back to what I was saying about having a stronger Tory party that is able to sort of keep Reform honest, so to speak. If you have two parties that both have, that sort of view, well, that's not a bad thing, is it?
Come on, Benedict. That's ridiculous. If you have two parties on 15, that's a lot worse than one party on 30.
Not necessarily.
I mean, this is the problem of the left that's hampered them in election after election.
Yeah, we don't have two parties on 15, though, do we? One of them's on 30 and the other one's on about 15 combined. That's a bit of a sweeter option. And you look at the current polling, Reform might well, if there was a general election tomorrow, be the largest party but not have the majority. But with those Tory numbers in those sort of die-hard Tory seats that can't quite yet get around to the idea of having Nigel Farage as Prime Minister, well, there you've got the beginnings, I wouldn't say of a coalition government. I don't think that we're going to have a coalition government between those two parties, but a situation where on certain things, where they align, like net zero, where maybe you can, with a minority government, get certain pieces of legislation through. And I think, as I've said, both parties can't survive long-term. There isn't going to be a coalition of the two, partly because a lot of Reform voters hate the Tories, but there is an avenue there towards getting things done, even if no one party can be the largest.
Going to watch this space. Benedict Spence, thank you very much, as always, for coming in there. And as always, let us know what you think about that, gbnews.com/your say. And also about the march going on this weekend, the pro-Palestine march as well. We heard some very emotive words there from, who would
Lord Walmsley.
Yeah, Lord Warnock, sorry. Mine's gone blank.
Well, it's difficult because he has two names, isn't it? John Woodcock,
I just
Lord
called him
Walmsley.
John. I just called him John. So sorry, I don't know. Lord, the posh word. In any case, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say.
But we're going to jump to India now. Our very own political correspondent is fresh from quizzing the Prime Minister and saying he has the reverse Midas touch. Yes, Catherine Forster, live from Mumbai. Catherine, what did you make of what the Prime Minister had to say? Oh, I'm sorry, we're having a bit of a communication issue there from the other half of the world. We'll see if we can re-establish that line and speak to Catherine as soon as we can. Of course, she was there at the press conference quizzing the Prime Minister alongside other senior journalists in the country, where he was doing his darndest to say absolutely nothing at all.
Catherine asked him about digital ID, and I'm still none the wiser what he actually said, so be honest. But we will go to Catherine as soon as we can. Well,
in other news, King Charles is set to star in an Amazon Prime documentary that explores his lifelong commitment to the philosophy of harmony and the environment. More on that after your latest news headlines with Sam.
2:34, very good afternoon to you. The top story this hour. Donald Trump says Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal, a potential breakthrough that could see fighting halt within just hours. The deal would see all Israeli hostages and some Palestinian prisoners released, humanitarian aid enter Gaza, and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines. Donald Trump spoke to Fox News just hours after the deal was agreed.
It's brought the whole world together. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. It's brought peace to the world, I'm telling you.
Speaking just moments ago, Sir Keir Starmer has hailed that agreement as a moment of profound relief that will be felt around the world. If approved by Israel's cabinet later today, a ceasefire could begin within 24 hours. Sir Keir Starmer is in India meeting Prime Minister Modi on what's being called a historic trade mission. He's unveiled new business and film deals, saying the UK-India partnership could boost Britain's economy by nearly £5 billion a year. Here, millions of households are facing even higher water bills after 5 suppliers, including Anglian and Wessex, won their appeal to raise bills. The watchdog allowed an extra 3% rise on top of Ofwat's already approved 36% increase, though it rejected most of the firm's demands as unjustified. Hate crimes across England and Wales have risen for the first time in 3 years, up 2% to now nearly 116,000. Race and religious hate crimes hit record highs, driven by a near 20% spike in anti-Muslim hate crimes. 3 UK universities have made the global top 10. Oxford first for the 10th year running, Cambridge joined third and Imperial in 8th. But overall, the UK slipped slightly, with fewer institutions in the world's top 500 for the first time since 2016. That's it from me for this afternoon. Tatiana Sanchez here at 3 o'clock for a full roundup.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure is now moving in from the west. That means it's going to be fine for many of us today, with some sunshine out there, although a lot of cloud at the same time, particularly towards the northwest of the country, where we're on the periphery of the high pressure, and a strong breeze will continue into the north and northwest of Scotland, along with thicker cloud and some patches of rain here and there, some spots of rain for Northern Ireland into northwest England as well. But away from those areas, actually it's dry, it's settled, and the best of the sunshine through the rest of the day will be across South Wales, southern England and parts of northeast England and eastern Scotland. Feeling pleasant where the sun shines, with temperatures above average for the time of year. Now, overnight, we keep the cloudy zones through central and northwestern parts of the country. Where we do get clear spells towards the far south, temperatures will fall away after dark, but in the northwest, a lot of cloud and still some drizzly rain for Northern Ireland, northwest England, western Scotland, especially for western hills of Scotland, but some decent cloud breaks there for eastern Scotland, northeast England, as well as the cloud breaks up over higher ground to the west. And as we go through the nights, some cloud will filter south, but southwest England likely to stay mostly clear, and it's here that temperatures will fall the furthest, with a few mist and fog patches forming by dawn, with light winds expected here as well, temperatures into the single figures. Eastern Scotland as well, some bright weather first thing, but a lot of cloud elsewhere across the country. Some light showers into the Midlands, northwest England, and that will stick around into the afternoon. But actually it progressively gets brighter in many places. Certainly a brighter day for the Midlands by the end of the afternoon. Wales, northern England and eastern Scotland. Temperatures reaching 18 or 19 Celsius.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Traffic restrictions are on the M90 after Junction 4 for a tyre change operation, requiring caution. The M48 enforces a 7.5-tonne weight limit for heavy goods vehicles, affecting logistics. In Stockton-on-Tees, a breakdown on the A19 southbound closes one lane, causing delays. There are 1-hour delays on the A12 northbound in Essex due to congestion. In Dorset, the A31 westbound entry slip from the A338 is completely closed for roadwork. Rail users should note buses replace trains between Corkicle and Whitehaven. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 20 to 3, and King Charles is the latest celebrity to join a streaming service.
Yes, a new documentary provisionally entitled Finding Harmony, A King's Vision, will explore his decades-long campaign to reconnect humanity with nature and will premiere on Amazon Prime.
OK, the King has said that he hopes the film will inspire a sense of determination to protect the environment.
Well, let's discuss this with the royal historian Alexander Larman. Alexander, this is interesting because it's not just for sort of us Brits here at home, it's for a global audience. I suppose this is the King doing something that monarchs haven't previously really had to do, which is focus on their brand.
Good afternoon, Tom. Well, I can't help wondering, first of all, is he trolling his son? Because if you remember, a few years ago, there was a biography of Harry, a very flattering biography called Finding Freedom. And obviously the title Finding Harmony is not so very far away from that. And my initial response was, is it some sort of dig at Harry? So that's an interesting bit of trolling straight off the bat. But second, and also the fact that it's being produced by Amazon Prime and not Netflix, you can see again there's a slight element of distancing himself from his son's unacceptable behaviour. But in terms of the content of the documentary, obviously everybody knows that Charles is very interested in the environment, and indeed this is following on from a book he wrote in 2010 about the environment. So this is not new territory. What is fascinating is that he's putting himself out there to this extent, because he's always been a king who's tried to put himself forward. He's always been somebody who likes being in the limelight. And even though he's still having treatment for cancer, which must be very debilitating and very tiring, he's still managed to take on a documentary, which is not a small commitment. And so we have to look at Charles, both with a mixture of respect for the efforts and the sheer amount of time he's putting in, but also, I fear, with a slight element of wariness, because he's not called the woke king for nothing. And I think that if you look at this is a classic example of every single canard about climate change and the environment writ large, because Charles is, politics don't really matter when you're a king, but he's somebody with a liberal, even left-wing ethos. I think we're going to see that ethos very clearly and very explicitly presented in the documentary next year.
Alexander, this is actually going to put him in somewhat direct competition, ratings-wise, with his youngest son and Meghan, isn't it?
It most certainly is. And as I was saying a moment ago, I think even the title represents throwing the gauntlet down to them. But obviously, I don't think Charles cares about ratings the way they do, because after all, he's king. He's already won in that regard. But certainly, any member of the royal family these days has to be much more media savvy than they were. I mean, you look just the other day when Prince William was being interviewed by Eugene Levy and used what should have been a very soft soap interview to give perhaps the most candid remarks about what his reign is likely to be. So you can see that Charles is, in a sense, still wanting to take the initiative. He's still wanting to put himself out there. And he's also reminding his, I'm still king. My opinions are the ones that count. You might well be king one day. And in the case of Harry, you might continue to be an irritation. But watch it. I'm not going anywhere for the time being.
I mean, the late Queen famously never complained, never explained, and we know actually still very little about what she actually thought about anything. What view do you think she'd take of this?
I think the Queen would look at her son and indeed her grandson and just think, do you really have to? Do we really have to know every single aspect of what you think about everything? Because the monarchy has pivoted, and it was doing this in her lifetime as well, from an institution which exists not in the public eye to an institution which is entirely in the public eye, and to some extent for interfamilial feuds are something that nobody has ever wanted. But we're also seeing the way that a documentary like this, which would be a big budget thing, complete with a guest appearance by none other than David Beckham, is going to be the kind of thing which is going to be one of next year's biggest releases for Amazon Prime. And obviously they must be delighted, because they are, as it were, in bed with the king, which is something that no other broadcaster can say. So it's a real coup for them. And Charles will be delighted because it's an opportunity for him to express these views in the clearest way imaginable. How interesting it's going to be for the man on the street, I don't know, but then we'll find out next year.
Certainly will. Well, Alexander Larman, royal historian, thanks indeed for joining us here on Good Afternoon Britain.
OK, this is indeed Good Afternoon Britain, just in case we'd forgotten, Tom, what we were doing.
Should we say it one more time, just
It
in
very
case?
happens. This is Good Afternoon Britain.
On GB News.
On GB News, and still to come, yeah. A giant fish-eating spider, once thought to be extinct in the UK, there it's on your screens now, has been spotted in British homes, with experts saying it's making a huge comeback.
Well, if you're in search of running away from some of these huge spiders in British homes, perhaps you'd like to see the weather abroad.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some unsettled weather across eastern areas of Spain. Storm Alice is set to bring heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira and also Tenerife, but all eyes on eastern areas of Spain. Some intense thunderstorms here likely to bring some localised flooding. A few showers across parts of Sardinia on Friday, but elsewhere, once again, mostly dry and settled. Plenty of sunshine, and this theme will continue over into the weekend, with warm temperatures too, widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just coming up to 10 to 3 and some breaking news to bring you. Donald Trump is likely to be in Jerusalem on Sunday. That's according to the Israeli president's office.
Yes.
And that's
Fingers crossed it's going. We've been talking about this all show, haven't we, about the peace process and the initial stages with the hostages being released, hopefully in the next 72 hours.
And I would say that the Israelis are very confident about those hostages being removed. If they're now saying that Donald Trump... There is no way Donald Trump would go if the whole deal looked like it was going to collapse.
Exactly. So it sounds like very, very good news indeed. Any case, we wanted to finish the programme on a lighter note, didn't we?
A slightly lighter note.
We tried to make a point of it.
Yeah.
And this time it's not bananas, is it? It's normally bananas with us too, isn't it? But we are talking about spiders.
Yes,
and it's
giant spiders.
Yes, it's the season of spiders invading your home. Autumn obviously always come in. But a giant fish-eating spider the size of your hand has been said to be extinct in Britain, has been creeping back into UK homes, and this is according to the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds.
This is a picture of it on screens now for those watching on television. It is a pretty big, nasty thing known as the fen raft spider. Now, they're non-venomous, so that's nice, but they're Britain's largest arachnids.
Yes.
Now known to not be extinct. And yes, as you say, Dawn, they can be the size of your hand.
Semi-aquatic and have been found back in Norfolk. So if you live in Norfolk at the moment, keep an eye out.
Well, no wonder they're in Norfolk, because the fens, of course, are full of fish. And this spider feeds on everything from other arachnids to even small fish.
Yeah, insects, other spiders, damselflies, dragonfly larvae and young men. I might have made that last bit up.
Gosh.
I might have made that last bit up. Do you reckon?
Well, I'm not young anymore, so that's OK.
He's younger than me. I think that's possible.
I could have been rude then, and I chose not to be.
Yeah.
Because I'm polite and was brung up well.
Yeah, no, you're not normally polite. In any case, all that's left for us to say now, thank you so much for your company this afternoon. I love working with young Tom, honestly. We joke.
And I love working with old Dawn.
Yes. I set him up, he does it. In any case, thanks for watching. Good afternoon, Brenda. You dare go anywhere, though, because the wonderful Martin is up next, and he's the same age as me, so you can say what you're Martin. What you got coming up?
Yeah, all right, shut up, Dawn. Thank you very much. So at 4 o'clock, we've got Donald Trump live from Washington, D.C., the man of the moment, making the rest of the Western leaders absolutely pointless. Donald Trump has power played a true political shock to the minnows we have in power. Trump live at 4 here on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure is now moving in from the west. That means it's going to be fine for many of us today, with some sunshine out there, although a lot of cloud at the same time, particularly towards the northwest of the country, where we're on the periphery of the high pressure, and a strong breeze will continue into the north and northwest of Scotland, along with thicker cloud and some patches of rain here and there, some spots of rain for Northern Ireland into northwest England as well. But away from those areas, actually, it's dry, it's settled, and the best of the sunshine through the rest of the day will be across South Wales, southern England, and parts of northeast England and eastern Scotland. Feeling pleasant where the sun shines, with temperatures above average for the time of year. Now, overnight, we keep the cloudy zones through central and northwestern parts of the country. Where we do get clear spells towards the far south, temperatures will fall away after dark, but in the northwest, a lot of cloud and still some drizzly rain for Northern Ireland, northwest England, western Scotland, especially for western hills of Scotland, but some decent cloud breaks there for eastern Scotland, northeast England, as well as the cloud breaks up over higher ground to the west. And as we go through the nights, some cloud will filter south, but southwest England likely to stay mostly clear, and it's here that temperatures will fall the furthest, with a few mist and fog patches forming by dawn, with light winds expected here as well, temperatures into the single figures. Eastern Scotland as well, some bright weather first thing, but a lot of cloud elsewhere across the country. Some light showers into the Midlands, northwest England, and that will stick around into the afternoon. But actually, it progressively gets brighter in many places. Certainly a brighter day for the Midlands by the end of the afternoon. Wales, northern England and eastern Scotland. Temperatures reaching 18 or 19 Celsius.